Chapter 110. In the next 2 days, the preliminary round of the Tiger Soul concept competition ended. Just as Feng Qi and the netizens expected, the human body spirit cultivation concept entered the preliminary round with an absolute advantage. However, nearly half of the competing concepts were eliminated in the preliminary round. The competition was very cruel. These concepts that were eliminated were not completely eliminated. After all, the netizens sometimes gave scores purely based on their preferences and did not have solid professional knowledge. In order to prevent the eliminated concepts from being covered in dust, a panel of judges formed by teachers from the various academies would evaluate the eliminated concepts and decide whether to revive them. Feng Qi did not pay attention to the later rounds of the competition. Whether it was the preliminary round or the finals after the preliminary round, it was meaningless to him. This time, the human body spirit cultivation concept was guaranteed to win the championship. The rest was left to the students of Cultivation Method Class 1 to perform. 8 million was already on the train and was on its way to his bank account. Today was the end of the new student special training. In the morning, the Academy's field was summarizing the new student special training. During this period, Bai Fuxing would give material and spiritual rewards to the students who performed well during the special training. He would also give them the title of Outstanding New Student Special Training, as a form of encouragement. After lunch, Feng Qi brought Lin Ran and Mu Qing to the classroom of Combat Class 3. The classroom was located on the 4th floor of Teaching Building No. 2. It covered an area of about 200 square meters. In addition to basic facilities such as desks and lecterns, there were also screens, projectors, air conditioners, and other facilities in the classroom. At this time, Lu Yu and the other 11 students had already arrived in the classroom. After walking into the classroom, Feng Qi looked at Lin Ran and Mu Qing and said, "Take a seat first." The two of them immediately nodded and walked to their seat. After Lin Ran and Mu Qing sat down, Feng Qi walked to the lectern. He first wrote his name on the blackboard, then turned around and smiled at the students below. "My name is Feng Qi, and I'm the form teacher of Combat Class 3. Next, let's introduce ourselves so that we can have an impression of each other." Those students who didn't understand the situation were very surprised when they heard Feng Qi say that he was the teacher of Combat Class 3. When Feng Qi first came in, they thought he was a classmate, but they didn't expect him to be a teacher. Lin Ran stood up cooperatively and introduced herself with a chuckle. "I'm sorry. My name is Lin Ran, an exchange student from Chilly Winter Academy." "I'm also your next classmate." When Lin Ran announced his name and his identity as an exchange student, the expressions of the seated students changed again. The small capitalist Su Hongyun was even more surprised. "You're the Lin Ran that was accepted by the Tiger Soul Institute in advance?" "That's me." Lin Ran cupped his fists in a showy manner. After Lin Ran finished his introduction, Su Hongyun, who was sitting on his right, stood up, scratched his head, and smiled foolishly. "My name is Su Hongyun, and I'm from the Sky Smasher Corporation. Other than my family being a little rich, there doesn't seem to be anything special about me. I hope everyone can become friends with me." Sky Smasher Corporation? One of the sponsors of Shuefu Restaurant? Lin Ran was surprised. In addition to Shuefu Restaurant, the school's public facilities are also partially sponsored. Hearing this answer, everyone in the room labeled Su Hongyun as a capitalist. After his introduction, the petite and cute Yang Xiaoxin stood up and introduced herself. "My name is Yang Xiaoxin, and I'm from the Star City Army. My name is Xiaolong, Xiaohu, Xiaobao, and I'm from the Beast Territory Battle Group. My name is Jia Yi, and I'm from the 8 Trigrams Array Research Institute. In order to join the 8 Trigrams Array Research Institute, I specially came to Star City University to go through the process. I know everyone is like me. My name is Kai Gua, and I'm from the Medical Research Institute. My goal is to enter the Medical Research Institute with my own ability. I hope to become friends with everyone in the future. My name is Yen Fu, and I'm from the Mountain Territory Battle Group. My goal in the future is to become an outstanding territory warrior. During the self-introduction segment, the freshmen didn't hide anything and revealed their backgrounds. Then, it was Tyrant's turn. He stood up, scanned the crowd, and said, "My name is Hui Su, and I'm just here to pass the time. It's best if everyone doesn't trouble me with anything. Even if you trouble me, I might not help. However, I still hope to become friends with everyone." Everyone was speechless. Tyrant's introduction was very straightforward. It could be said that it was a true portrayal of his inner thoughts. After he sat down, Lu Yu stood up. Lu Yu, no background. Everyone was familiar with Lu Yu. His performance during the freshman special training could be said to be in the limelight. He was even called the strongest freshman in the 23rd bat. After he sat down, Lu Pingyan, who wore glasses and looked very gentle, stood up. "My name is Lu Pingyan, and I'm from the Medical Research Institute. If anyone needs anything, you can look for me. I'll do my best to help." After Lu Pingyan finished his self-introduction and was about to sit down, Feng Qi looked at him and asked, "I've seen your information. You're still an intermediate spiritual apothecary, right?" "Yes, I learned it in my free time," Lu Pingyan replied shyly. After hearing Lu Pingyan's reply, Feng Qi had an idea. In the future, Lu Pingyan might be able to help him greatly in saving money. Of course, he wouldn't let Lu Pingyan do it for free. When the time came, he would use his knowledge in exchange. In the end, it was Mu Qing's turn to introduce herself. Under Feng Qi's encouraging gaze, she slowly stood up. "My name is Mu Qing. I'm a scavenger from outside Star City." After hearing Mu Qing's introduction, everyone's reaction wasn't that strong. As if they could see that Mu Qing was being reserved, Xiaolong grinned and said, "There's no need to be embarrassed. Being a scavenger isn't shameful. In terms of fighting against the domain invasion, scavenger contributions aren't any lower than city people. Your contributions are worthy of respect. My father said that he likes to work with the domain battle groups formed by scavenger the most." "Yes, that's what my father said too," Yen Fu also said at this time. The three Xia brothers and Yen Fu were all from famous domain battle groups, so they had a good impression of scavenger. They didn't discriminate against scavenger like many city people. Their words made Mu Qing less nervous. An acute smile appeared on her face. When everyone finished introducing themselves, Feng Qi walked down from the podium and came to the middle of the students. He smiled and said, "There's no class today. Let's talk about our views on the future. Everyone, take your turn. Monk, you go first." Feng Qi asked Monk to speak first. Monk scratched his head in response to the question. "I really don't know what the future will be like, but if the sky falls, there'll be someone tall to hold it up. What I need to do is eat well, drink well, and not be a burden." Thinking about Master Huaishu and future person's evaluation and then looking at Monk's current appearance, Feng Qi felt extremely helpless. "Su Hongyun, what about you?" Feng Qi looked at Su Hongyun. "I think the future will definitely develop in a better direction. We humans are rapidly rising, and victory is only a matter of time." Lu Yu. When he heard the question, Lu Yu stood up. "I hope that humans can win in the end, but I know that the hope of humans winning is very slim." When they heard this, everyone was in an uproar and they all looked at Lu Yu. Feng Qi also asked with a puzzled expression, "Why do you say that?" "Sometimes ignorance is a protection for ordinary people. The more you know, the more painful it is. When what you think is completely overturned, the collapse of your heart will only take a moment." When he heard this, Feng Qi was stunned. This was his experience. He thought that the future of humans was bright, but after he obtained the ability to enter the future dream, the hope in his heart was completely shattered by reality. Therefore, Lu Yu's words were indeed correct. Sometimes ignorance is a protection. It can make people confident in the future and firmly believe that the future will be as they wish. They are also willing to work hard for the future of their dreams. But once they know the truth, most people will choose to give up and muddle through their days. Riddler, why don't I understand what you mean? Xiaohu glared at Lu Yu. Clearly, he was very dissatisfied with Lu Yu's words that the future of humans was slim. Lu Yu didn't answer Xiaohu's question. Instead, he looked at Feng Qi and asked, Miss Feng, if one day you know that the future will end with humans losing no matter how hard you struggle, will you still work hard? Faced with the question, Feng Qi was silent for a few seconds before nodding. I will continue to work hard and struggle forward in despair until I personally witness the end of the world or a miracle. When he heard Feng Qi's answer, a smile appeared on Lu Yu's face. This is also my answer. A girl once told me that a person who still believes in miracles in a desperate situation is as amazing as a miracle. Who is she? Feng Qi couldn't help but ask curiously. A person who has lived for a long time and has always been searching for miracles for humans. She has never given up despite repeated setback. In my eyes, she is a miracle for humans. Lu Yu's words immediately made him think of Vivian. Among the historical figures he had seen, only Vivian fit Lu Yu's description. However, he felt that it might not be Vivian. Lu Yu said that she had lived for a long time but also called her a girl. Vivian was obviously a beautiful young woman and didn't have anything to do with the word girl. Following this, everyone's thoughts about the future were very similar. They firmly believed that human civilization was in a stage of rapid development and that the threat of domain fields to humans was gradually weakening. One day there would be no domain fields and domain monsters in this world. As for their ideal future, Feng Qi did not expose them. This was because anticipation was beautiful and filled people with confidence. On the other hand, despair was painful. Humans had to move forward under the shroud of lies. Only then would there be miracles in the future. Finally, it was Lin Rant's turn to speak. He stood up with a smile. My view of the future is the same as everyone's, but I won't sit still and wait for death. In the future, I will definitely be able to develop an earth-shattering super cultivation technique and push human civilization one step closer to its ideal future. When he heard Lin Rant's speech, Feng Qi felt helpless. Lin Ran did develop a super cultivation technique in the future, but it didn't push human civilization forward. Instead, it became a stumbling block on the path of human civilization. While causing millions of people to die, it also caused the development of human cultivation to stagnate for a period of time. It was truly earth-shattering. Chapter 111. After the first class of combat Class 3 ended, Feng Qi had a preliminary understanding of his 11 students. Some of them came to Star City University to gain experience. After graduation, they would be picked up by the forces they belonged to. However, there were also people like Su Hongyun, Yang Xiaoxin, and Kai Guo who wanted to rely on their own efforts to achieve something. The most dispirited one was Monk. He had a clear goal, which was to dawdle. Among them, the most mysterious was Lu Yu. He had never revealed his true goal of coming to Star City University. After the first class ended, the students dispersed. Feng Qi asked Lu Pingyan to stay. Looking at the bashful Lu Pingyan, he smiled and asked, Pingyan, can you brew elixirs similar to merit wine? Faced with the question, Lu Pingyan immediately shook his head. I have some understanding of the ingredients for merit wine. It is very complicated and requires a mixture of hundreds of spiritual materials. At the very least, it requires a high-level or special-grade elixir master to brew it. After he finished speaking, Lu Pingyan curiously asked, Miss Feng, do you have any requirements in this area? Feng Qi heard this and nodded. I usually consume a lot of spiritual materials for cultivation, so I need the help of an elixir master like you. However, I won't take your benefits for free. I will make it up to you in terms of funds or other aspect. Lu Pingyan shyly nodded. I can't brew merit wine, but I still have the ability to brew other energy elixirs. Teacher, what is your budget? I can give it a try. I don't have a fixed budget. Just follow what you think is the best. Let's add each other as friends first. When the time comes, just send me the list of materials. Okay, no problem. After adding Lu Ping and as friends, Feng Qi went straight back to the dorm. Sitting in front of the desk, he thought of the mysterious girl Lu Yu mentioned. He was a little puzzled as to why Lu Yu would call her a miracle. While thinking, he suddenly thought of Murakami. She was a mysterious figure in history. No one knew where she came from. It was as if she had appeared out of thin air in history. He guessed that Murakami was most likely from the heavenly path. Judging from her appearance, she also fit the description of a girl very well. As for whether she had lived for a long time, he had no idea. While he was thinking, an avatar popped up at the bottom right corner of the screen. After opening it, he saw a message from Lu Ping, and attached to the message was a document with the title Clear Heart Wine. After opening it, he saw a detailed list of spiritual materials. He didn't expect Lu Ping to be so efficient. He had already made a list. After glancing at the names of the spiritual materials on the list, he opened a shopping website and began to calculate how much money he would need to spend to purchase these spiritual materials. A moment later, he got the answer. The cost of brewing a bottle of Qingxin wine was about 1.2 million yuan. Since he didn't have much savings left, he naturally didn't have the money to buy this batch of spiritual materials. After a moment of silence, he took out his phone and dialed Bai Fuxing's number. After the phone rang a few times, Bai Fuxing's cheerful laughter came through. Little Qi, what's the matter? Grandmaster, I want to discuss something with you. Say it. As long as you're not the principal, everything is negotiable. Can I be the vice principal? If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Bai Fuxing's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. Don't. Actually, I just want to get an advance payment of 3 million yuan for the Tiger Soul concept competition, Feng Qi said, a little embarrassed. Advance payment? Do you really think you'll definitely win the championship? Isn't that so? In the face of Feng Qi's confidence, Bai Fuxing seemed a little helpless on the other end of the phone. He wanted to refute but found that the facts seemed to be as Feng Qi said. It was already a consensus that the human body concept would win the championship. There was no suspense. After a moment of silence, he said, although I also think I'll definitely win the championship, don't think that I can do whatever I want just because I'm the principal. The 3 million yuan can indeed be given to you in the form of a reward after you win the championship, but the Academy's funds also need to be reported to the higher-ups. If you want to get an advance payment, what reason do you want me to use to give it to you? This can be considered as abusing public office for personal gain. Hearing this, Feng Qi was speechless. He really didn't consider this point. Although the championship was already on the way, Bai Fuxing couldn't report it before the championship was in his hands. However, just as Feng Qi was about to give up, Bai Fuxing's voice came again. Recently, there's a batch of funds for infrastructure renovation that needs to be allocated. Why don't I give you 3 million yuan first and make up for it when you win the championship? Isn't this abusing public office for personal gain? Feng Qi was stunned. He couldn't keep up with Bai Fuxing's train of thought. Just tell me if you want it or not. Will taking this money affect the Academy's construction progress? No, it won't. It's only 3 million yuan. Moreover, this money should be given after the completion of the construction. It'll probably take a month or so you don't have to worry. Then I'll take it. Thank you for taking care of me, Grandmaster. A moment later, Feng Qi received 3 million yuan in the name of Star City University. Note: maintenance and renewal fees for Star City University's special track. Originally, this money should be given to the outsourced construction company. However, at this moment it was in his pocket. He knew that Bai Fuxing must have taken a lot of risks by doing this, so he was very touched. After receiving the funds, he opened the shopping website and put the spiritual materials into the shopping cart according to the list provided by Lu Ping'an. After emptying the shopping cart, he spent a total of 21 million yuan. After doing all this, it was already night outside the window. After contacting Lin Ran, he left the dormitory and went straight to the Xuefu restaurant. After dinner, he chose to study with Lin Ran in the library and didn't return to the dormitory until the wee hours of the morning. The next morning, Feng Qi received 8 express packages. After contacting Lu Ping'an, he brought the packages to Lu Ping'an's dormitory room. After knocking on the door, Lu Ping'an, who was wearing slippers and blue pajamas, opened the door. "Miss Feng, come in." Feng Qi nodded with a smile and walked into the room. Lu Ping'an's room had the same layout as his dormitory. Other than that, there were 4 small mechanical instruments placed in the room. As if seeing his doubts, Lu Ping'an immediately explained, "These instruments are necessary tools for a spirit apothecary. They are used for refining, crushing, mixing, and measuring. Without the assistance of these machines, it would be a bit difficult for me to mix spiritual materials with my own hands." After listening to Lu Ping'an's explanation, he immediately nodded to show that he understood. He had a general understanding of the situation of spirit apothecaries. When they mixed medicine, the control of quantity was extremely important. If the quantity of a certain spiritual material was too high, the mixed medicine could become highly toxic. Therefore, various mechanical instruments were needed to assist. However, there were also powerful spirit apothecaries who didn't need mechanical instruments at all. They only needed to grab it with their hands and weigh it twice to accurately determine the quantity of the spiritual material. As for the age and efficacy of the spiritual material, it could be determined by the eyes and nose. A top-notch spirit apothecary was comparable to a humanoid detector. After opening all the packages with Lu Ping'an, the dormitory was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. "Miss Feng, the steps to brew the clear heart wine aren't complicated. Do you need me to teach you?" Hearing this, Feng Qi couldn't help but be stunned. Is it simple? Actually, the main complexity of the profession of spirit apothecary is that it requires a lot of knowledge. If it's a single formula of mixing medicine, it's not difficult. As long as you understand the steps and have a measuring instrument, it's quite simple. After listening to Lu Ping'an's explanation, Feng Qi was immediately interested. If he could learn it, then he wouldn't need to trouble Lu Ping'an every time in the future. In the following time, he began to learn how to mix medicine with Lu Ping'an. During this time, Lu Ping'an explained every step very carefully, without the slightest impatience. Feng Qi also learned very seriously. If he didn't understand, he would ask questions. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. During the exchange, the relationship between the two was no longer as distant as before. After spending 3 hours mixing, the blue liquid flowed out of the mixing instrument and dripped down the hose into a prepared glass bottle. A moment later, a rich medicinal fragrance spread in the room. After passing the glass bottle to Feng Qi, Lu Ping'an advised with a serious expression, "The spiritual material used to make the clear heart wine contains the intoxicating fragrance fruit. This bottle of medicine shouldn't have a low alcohol content. Miss Feng, drink it in moderation. Don't drink too much." "Thank you." Feng Qi immediately nodded his head and thanked him. "You're welcome. In the future, I still need Miss Feng's guidance on cultivation. When the time comes, I hope you won't find me troublesome." Saying this, Lu Ping'an's face revealed a bashful smile. "Why would I find you troublesome? I like students who are eager to learn." While chatting, the barrier between the student and the teacher dissipated. After the clear heart wine was made, Feng Qi said goodbye to Lu Ping'an and returned to the dorm. Sitting in front of the desk, he looked at the blue liquid in the glass bottle and decided to give it a try. After unscrewing the bottle cap, He poured a mouthful into his mouth. The blue liquid burst into a chill when it entered his mouth. After sliding down his throat, he immediately felt a chill. He couldn't help but shiver. The energy progress bar that had been reset to 0 the last time he entered the dream began to rise. It slowly rose from 0.8% and finally stopped at 4.7%. Without hesitation, he immediately poured the clear heart wine into his mouth. While he felt cold all over, his energy progress bar rose at a rate of 0.5% per second. A few minutes later, the chill in his body subsided. The energy progress bar rose to 175.9%, a total of 175.1%. The advanced wolf rune crystal cost 880,000 yuan. It could roughly replenish 100% of his energy progress bar. Every 1% cost about 8,800 yuan. The clear heart wine cost 1.25 million yuan and replenished 175% of his energy. Every 1% cost about 6,900 yuan. Although it couldn't be compared to the merit wine, the effect was significantly better than eating the rune crystal raw. Finding a way to save money, a smile appeared on his face. Under Lu Ping An's guidance, he had roughly grasped the brewing process of the clear heart wine. He planned to learn a few more times before buying a few mechanical instruments to brew it himself. Thinking of this, he went online to check the price of the pharmacist's auxiliary instrument. A set of basic equipment on the shopping website wasn't expensive. It only cost about 400,000 yuan. From a long-term perspective, it was definitely worth buying. Before the hazy drunkenness from the clear heart wine subsided, Feng Qi immediately lay down on the bed. This time, the future timeline was to join the Scarlet Institute and explore the secrets of the Scarlet Institute. For this, he had already prepared 4 research results in the field of biological sciences. The plan was already perfect, so there was no need to think too much. He decided to enter the future dream to explore it. Before going to bed, he couldn't help but ask with a smile, aside, "It's time to go to work. Are you happy?" "I'm not happy. I'm asking for leave." "No." He too. Chapter 112. The blood moon hung high in the sky, and the chilly wind howled. Piles of dried bones stretched for miles. This place was like the infernal hell in the weird stories. It was dead silent. The roars of the living dead added a hint of eeriness to this deathly still world. Feng Qi, who was already used to this scene, stepped on Shao Kahn's head and went straight to the control panel of the Star City underground shelter. After he turned on the control panel, the screen covered in dust lit up. After entering his name in the search bar and filtering, his relevant information appeared on the screen. Feng Qi, Grade A scientist, Grade S elite human. Age, 29. Cause of death: radiation from the rune crystal overflowing from the rune crystal when he was researching it, causing his body to deteriorate rapidly. Date of death: August 15, 2034. Lifetime achievements: Honors Grade S graduate from Star City University, Grade S Elite Human Medal, Outstanding Contribution to Human Development Award, Grade A Researcher at the Scarlet Institute. Research results: Gymnastics Training Version 2.0, Tiger Fist, Body Tempering Technique, Heaven and Earth Meditation, Soul Catcher, Creator of Human Spirit Concept, Participant of Cultivation System Version 3.76, Limb Regrowth Technology, Biological Science. Comment: one of the top 10 geniuses in history, Feng Qi's life can be summed up as gifted. In his early years, he had many outstanding achievements in the field of martial arts research, and was known as the leader of the new cultivation system. All of humanity had high hopes for him, believing that he would create a brand new history in the field of martial arts research. However, at the end of his second year teaching at Star City University, he accepted the Scarlet Institute's invitation to become a biological science researcher. This decision caused a huge commotion at the time, and everyone felt sorry for Feng Qi's decision. However, reality proved that Feng Qi was an extraordinary super genius. In the next few years, he solved 4 unsolved problems in the field of biological science, and the limb regrowth technology he developed had a profound impact on future generations. However, just as everyone was waiting for him to continue creating miracles, an experiment accident took away the young him, and Feng Qi's era came to an end. To this day, his statue was still erected in Star City University's Hall of Heroes for future generations to worship. Netizens commented, "Just love drinking milk tea. Floral. JPG, thank you, Mr. Feng, for your contributions to the human race. How I wish to be in the same era as you and witness your glorious growth with my own eyes. Unfortunately, I can only understand you through statues and reading your biography. Non-fried kitten, floral." JPG, I clearly remember that when our history teacher introduced you to us, he said with regret that if you could live for a few more decades, the development of human civilization would have undergone earth-shaking changes, and history would have been rewritten. Your departure is a loss to all of mankind, but we will always remember it. Salutations, Yi Fei Yu, September 30th, 2687. Running nonstop. A genius remembered by the times, a hero remembered by history. Some people think that Feng Qi is a legendary figure in history, but if you really look at history, you will find that we have underestimated him. Can you believe that he has already developed 6 cultivation methods at the age of 17? I would believe him if he said he was a transmigrator, but I just couldn't understand why Feng Qi wanted to go to the Scarlet Institute. Although he had made a lot of achievements during his time there, he still felt like they were being buried. After reading the character introduction and netizens' comments, a smile appeared on Feng Qi's face. This time, he had finally received the recognition of the world. However, the outcome of your untimely death hasn't changed. Compared to the last time, your lifespan has been reduced. My poor Ah Qi, if lifespan could be recharged, I would sell everything I had to give you 100 more years. Feng Qi. He had already mentally prepared himself for the outcome of his untimely death. However, he definitely wouldn't believe that he would die from research. In order to understand the details, he closed the character details page and entered his email address in the search bar. When the email page popped up, he clicked on the message box. Suddenly, the relevant content was arranged on the screen. This time, the mailbox was not emptied like last time. Starting from the first message, he looked at the content left by his future self. 1. Today, I officially became a researcher at the Scarlet Institute. My position is under the Genetic Research Department. However, when I resigned from my position as a substitute teacher, and when I said goodbye to Mu Qing, Lin Ran, and the students, I was quite reluctant to part with them. 4. Every day I was persuaded to give up on going to the Scarlet Institute, but I have already made up my mind. I will follow my heart. You will only know the road ahead after you have walked it. No one can give you advice. 6. I have officially joined the Scarlet Institute. My immediate superior is Vivian. In the early stages, I was responsible for being her assistant. In the past 2 years, I have learned a lot of biological science in my free time. There shouldn't be a problem for me to join the Scarlet Institute directly. 33. I have started to learn about the Rune Transformation Project, but I didn't ask too many questions. After all, I am not familiar with Vivian yet. It would be inappropriate to ask such sensitive questions. Let's spend some time together first. Recently, I am preparing to solve the hair loss problem for humans. 245. Today, I asked Vivian about Mu Qing. She told me that Mu Qing volunteered to participate in the Rune Transformation Project with her. She also said that at the time, Mu Qing seemed to dislike her because little Mu Qing was also living in the Scarlet Institute. She found little Mu Qing cute, so she often bullied her. So, it was no wonder that little Mu Qing was against Vivian. When I asked Vivian what the rune crystal embedded in Mu Qing's body was, she shook her head and said that she didn't know either. It was an accidental acquisition. When I wanted to ask for more details, Vivian was unwilling to answer. I have a feeling that there is a secret, but I have to take it slow. One day she will tell me. 337. In the year that we have been together, Vivian has not shown any signs of hostility towards humans. Perhaps she is on the side of humans. I hope my guess is correct. 387. Today, I was promoted to a C-rank researcher in the Scarlet Institute. I finally have access to a lot of confidential information. At the same time, Vivian also told me something. She said that the Scarlet Institute had never given up on the rune transformation project, even when it was first banned. It was because this project might change the future of mankind. 587. Today, I went for a physical examination, including a mental examination. The Scarlet Institute is very strict in this regard. I can't help but suspect that the Scarlet Institute did this to prevent evil forces from infiltrating. However, I am more curious about the domain transcendental creatures in the core area of the Institute. Unfortunately, with my current level of access, I don't even have the right to step into that area. 723. I was promoted to a B-rank researcher, and I even made the headlines today. All the major media outlets praised me. I didn't embarrass you in this timeline, did I? I don't feel so bad when I read the netizens' comments, and I don't want to start a keyboard war with them. Laugh. JPG 868. Red mark. After years of undercover work, Vivian gradually developed trust in me. After today's examination, she told me an important piece of news. She told me that the world is not as simple as it seems. In fact, there is a dark side to this world that we have yet to discover. That is the source of all disasters. All the domain transcendental creatures also came from there. Moreover, there are a large number of evil forces hiding among the human race that want to destroy human civilization. The Scarlet Institute has long since discovered this, and has already launched the most confidential anti-infiltration plan. When I heard this news, I was shocked. When I wanted to ask about the details of the plan, Vivian said that the latter part of the plan was highly confidential, and it was not the time to know about it yet. How infuriating! A lowly B-rank researcher doesn't deserve to know too much. It seems that I have worked hard, and I feel that I am getting closer to the truth. In the future, wait for my good news. Seeing this, Feng Qi's face revealed a look of surprise. He had only guessed about the dark side of the world before, but he didn't expect that Vivian would actually confirm it. When he thought about the mysterious disappearance of the domain transcendence, he suddenly felt that it was very likely that they had learned the truth and were dispatched to the dark side of the world. At the same time, many doubts arose in his heart. Where is the dark side of the world? What are the details of the anti-infiltration plan? Is that the path to heaven that Lu Yu mentioned? Why is the Scarlet Institute on the side of the human race? How can we explain the domain transcendental creatures in the Scarlet Institute's underground base? Or is it that the Scarlet Institute has also been partially infiltrated, but Vivian doesn't know the truth? With doubts, he continued to scroll through the contents of the mailbox. Today, Vivian told me another confidential piece of news, confirming my previous guess. She is thinking of a way to clone a genius, and the first candidate is Mu Qing, because she clearly knows how terrifying Mu Qing's growth potential is. It seems that the birth of a small suction cup is in the process of being born. Vivian recently contacted Mu Qing and collected several tubes of the latest Mu Qing's blood, preparing to start a new round of cloning and replication. During this time, I also called Mu Qing to find out about her recent situation. She said that she was doing well recently and was preparing to form the Dawn Domain Battle Group. I am still relatively safe in the Scarlet Institute. I feel that this time, I can at least live until I am 70 or 80 years old. Maybe then I will know the truth about Mu Qing's massacre. Today, Wei Wei was furious and smashed everything in the laboratory. Her plan to clone Mu Qing had failed again, and the embryos she had cultivated had all died prematurely. I felt that the problem might be with the rune crystals. I'd better tell her next time. That old woman must have reached menopause. She was cursing and smashing everything in the laboratory at the same time. It was ridiculous. I trembled as I watched from the side. 9:38. Vivian told me that the rune crystal might be the key to cloning Mu Qing. Vivian agreed with me, but the rune crystal on Mu Qing obviously can't be obtained. She decided to try with other rune crystals. In the future, she will probably experience continuous failure. The birth of a small suction cup is really a torment. After I was promoted to rank a researcher, Vivian took me to her office and told me another important piece of news. I finally knew what the domain transcendental creatures in the underground of the Scarlet Institute were. She told me that the core of the reverse osmosis project was rune-modified humans. The aura of a human is completely different from that of a domain creature, so they can be easily detected. However, rune-modified humans are different. They have the aura of a domain creature, and they can disguise themselves as a race of the dark side to reverse osmosis. The top secret underground of the Scarlet Institute was the core research area of the rune-modified humans. The research content has never been made public. It is said that rune-modified humans, or more accurately, humans are transformed into domain creatures. Everything is for the purpose of reverse osmosis and to improve the concealment. The ultimate goal of this project is to find the source of the transmission of calamities from the dark side to the real world, and then cut off the transmission source. As for how to get to that world, the answer lies in the space crystal left behind in the dispelled domain. This space crystal is the node between the dark side and our world. After it is activated in a specific way, it can form a passage to the dark side. But when I asked her if the domain transcendents who disappeared in history have been sent to the dark side, she shook her head and said that the reverse osmosis project of the Scarlet Institute has not been fully launched yet. They have only sent 2 rune-modified humans, and the Institute has not made contact with the domain transcendents who disappeared in history. She also told me that these evil forces rooted in human civilization are thinking of ways to destroy human civilization and assassinate the new generation of human geniuses. In order to protect these geniuses, the Scarlet Institute has secretly trained many experts to protect them. Seeing this, he finally believed that the Scarlet Institute was always on the side of humanity. The many doubts about the Scarlet Research Institute were finally answered at this moment. Mu Qing also knew that the Scarlet Institute was always on the side of humanity, so when she established the so-called Dawn Rebels, she never made a move against the Scarlet Institute. As for the list of geniuses in the Scarlet Institute, it was actually set up to resist the mysterious organization that was secretly assassinating the new generation of human geniuses. In one of the timelines, Lu Yu encountered a mysterious force protecting the new generation of geniuses, which actually came from the Scarlet Institute. But a new question arose. Where did the domain transcendents go? Did the Scarlet Institute know who the hidden enemy was? With doubts, Feng Qi continued to scroll through the contents of the mailbox. Chapter 113. After looking through the contents of the email, many of Feng Qi's questions were answered. At least, the current messages proved that the Scarlet Institute had been hiding in the dark, silently preparing an anti-infiltration plan to cut off the connection between the dark world and the real world. They had also noticed that there were enemies lurking in the human society, so they were secretly protecting the new generation of geniuses to prevent them from being assassinated. But Feng Qi still had a lot of questions in his mind. He wanted to know if the Scarlet Institute knew who the enemies lurking in the human society were. With doubts, he continued to read the email. Today, when he talked to Vivian about the Heavenly Path, she said that she had never heard of it. So the Scarlet Institute might not have anything to do with the heavenly path, but there was also a possibility that Vivian just didn't know about it. After the physical examination today, I suddenly asked her how old she was, and she told me without hesitation that she was 18. At that time, I really wanted to ask her, "Don't you know what's going on?" There was finally some progress in the cloning and replication of the little sucker. Let me show you what the little sucker looks like in its seedling state, attached video, but it was still far from success. Feng Qi clicked on the video and a small white tadpole appeared on the screen. It was swimming vigorously in the blue liquid. Oh wow, it looks quite active. Feng Qi. It seemed that the research was successful, but he knew that this was definitely not the one that had turned into a sucker. Looking at the timeline, the sucker should have been born after Mu Qing established the Dawn Rebels, or even after Mu Qing's death. When he went through the future database several times, Mu Qing's body was kept confidential. He guessed that it was very likely that he had been sent to the Scarlet Research Institute to extract the latest genes and take out the special rune crystal. After that, the small sucker was officially born and released by the Scarlet Institute when Star City was in danger. What puzzled him was that since the Scarlet Institute was a good place, it should have been safe for him to stay in the Scarlet Institute in the future. How did he die in such a bizarre manner at the age of 29? Puzzled, he continued to read the rest of the email. After attending the internal meeting of the Scarlet Research Institute, Lu Xing went through a series of physical examinations before the meeting, including a mental examination. During the meeting, I met the directors of the other departments. After a vote, they agreed to include me in the core plan. Now I was going to join the plan to save the world and fight for the future of mankind. During the meeting, I finally realized how much effort the Scarlet Institute had put into protecting the world. Every single one of them was prepared to die. Director Li of the Biochemistry Department told me that everything the Scarlet Institute had done could not be leaked. Otherwise, they would be targeted by the hidden forces and sabotage their plans. This reminded me of a time when the hidden forces learned about the Scarlet Institute's plans through me and started sabotaging them. At that time, I was actually used as a tool by the hidden forces. During the meeting, I asked the directors of the Scarlet Institute a question. Do they know who the hidden forces are? Faced with my question, they were all silent. At this time, Wei Wei told me that they had actually caught spies from the dark forces before. However, they would all choose to die after they were caught. The poison in their bodies would be activated, and no matter how hard they tried to save them, it would be useless. Their bodies would rapidly decay in a short period of time, and in the end, they would disappear without a trace. After officially joining the core plan, I finally met the rune-modified humans in the underground laboratory. They were the ones we had mistakenly thought to be domain transcendent. They were all researchers who had volunteered to participate in the experiment. It was because of their sacrifice that the rune-modified humans project was perfected. Now, the Scarlet Institute was able to modify humans into semi-domain creatures. The ultimate goal of the project was to send a group of semi-domain creatures into the dark world. They would then find the portal between the two worlds and destroy it. If they were gone forever, then they would be gone forever. They would pay their respects to them. Something big happened today. One of the Scarlet Research Institute's bases was attacked. The base was located in the outskirts of Twilight City. Were they familiar with the place? Yes, it was the base that Mu Qing went to investigate in one of the timelines. It was that investigation record that made us suspect that Mu Qing's betrayal had something to do with the Scarlet Institute. We even imagined that there were many cruel rune-modified humans in the base. Now, it turned out that we were wrong. The Scarlet Institute was in a very bad situation right now. The dark forces seemed to have found some clues and were probing the Scarlet Institute. Destroying the base was probably the first step. The Scarlet Institute had issued a new mission to the Domain Battle Group. They were to investigate the situation. P.S. the Scarlet Twilight City base was destroyed. The mission record is in Chapter 17. At the meeting, everyone agreed that the Scarlet Institute had most likely exposed some of its secret. The information in Twilight City was indeed sensitive. The dark forces would probably target the Scarlet Institute more frequently in the future. I guessed that in one of the timelines, Mu Qing had received a request from the Scarlet Institute and went on a killing spree. Her goal was to destroy the base in Twilight City and erase all the information and clues. From then on, she would embark on the path to becoming a great demon ahead of time. After learning that the base in Twilight City was destroyed, Vivian was very depressed. It was because there was a student that she valued very much in the base. She left the base alone in the middle of winter. I followed her out and searched for a long time. Eventually, I found her on a street outside the base. She was rubbing her hands as she stood in the cold wind that was 20 degrees below zero. Her eyes were empty and lifeless. She no longer had the enthusiasm and vitality she used to have. I thought she must be in pain right now. Maybe this was the burden that a Pathfinder had to bear. Today, Vivian was obviously in a better mood. She told me that she was used to it. Sadness could not be turned into strength, but anger could. She was now full of motivation. She also told me that when the time came, she would make 10,000 copies of Mu Qing and gang up on the dark forces. Now that I was officially a core member of the Scarlet Research Institute, I was in charge of analyzing rune crystals. My workload had increased, and I sometimes had to stay in the lab for a few days. I couldn't help but ask Vivian again about the rune crystal on Mu Qing. This time, Vivian didn't hide anything and told me something important. She said that the rune crystal had existed since the founding of the Scarlet Institute. It was said that the founding director of the Scarlet Institute had obtained it from a mysterious person. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. The founding director of the Scarlet Institute was the one who first proposed the rune transformation project. He was depressed for a long time after the project was cancelled. It was at that time that he met a mysterious person who gave him the rune crystal on Mu Qing and helped him establish the Scarlet Institute. Wei Wei said that she had seen the mysterious man before and he had given her something as well. I asked her what it was, and she told me that it was youth. Seeing this, Feng Qi had a puzzled look on his face. He suspected that Vivian could stay young forever because of the mysterious person's help. But then there was a problem. Who was the mysterious person? Why did he give Vivian so long? And why did he give the rune crystal on Mu Qing, the founding director of the Scarlet Institute? He thought of the mysterious girl that Lu Yu had mentioned. She had lived for a long time in LVU's description. During this period, she had been looking for miracles for mankind. She had never given up after repeated setback. She was also a human miracle in LVU's eyes. Was the mysterious person the same person as her? Puzzled, he continued to read the rest of the email. When I asked, Vivian told me that she didn't know what the mysterious person looked like. She could only tell that the mysterious person was a woman by her voice. During this time, Wei Wei even told me that she suspected that the woman was an old monster. After all, she had existed since the Scarlet Research Institute was founded. If she was able to survive until now, wouldn't that make her an old monster? Hearing this, my face was full of question marks. When that old woman Wei Wei said those words, did she even think about me? Vivian said that I had finished my apprenticeship and could lead a team by myself. She was going to let me be the director of the new branch base. I was going to reach the pinnacle of my life. Actually, I've already fallen in love with biology. I feel that I'll definitely have many achievements in this field. Just wait and see what the future holds for me. I'm going to be independent. I had officially left Vivian and came to the new base. The headquarters had also sent 3 field battle groups to protect us. We were going to work hard for a better future. Shit, the base was attacked by a mysterious force. Fortunately, there were no casualties. However, it seemed that the base was being targeted by the dark forces. I wouldn't die young again, would I? No, I still wanted to fight for the rise of mankind. I couldn't let the butterfly's wings be broken. The base was attacked again. I had asked for backup from the headquarters. 10 field battle groups would be sent to protect the branch base. At the same time, I had put all the sensitive information in my private laboratory. If something unexpected happened, I would burn it all. Something big had happened. The network connection to the headquarters had been cut off, and the entire base's signal was being blocked. It seemed like the Dark Ones were about to launch an all-out attack. Hopefully, they would be able to survive this. If not, they would be dead for sure. Sitting in my private laboratory, I suddenly thought about how I would die if I were to die. Mankind needed to move forward under the cover of lies. The Scarlet Institute would never reveal the existence of the dark forces to the world. Maybe I would die in a way that you would think was simple. The defense line of the base had been breached. The mysterious force was approaching the core area. I had destroyed all the sensitive information. I would rather die than give them the secret of the rune transformation. The reverse infiltration plan must not be known to the dark forces. Next, I would join the battle. I hadn't trained for a long time. I couldn't change anything with my combat ability, but I would not wait to be killed. I would fight to the death. This might be the last message I'll leave you. Unfortunately, I still couldn't escape the fate of an untimely death. Before I died, I suddenly felt that there was light in our lives. Thousands of me could always light up a path for us to move forward before the light was extinguished. As for you, who would continue to carry the heavy burden, do your best. Chapter 114. After reading the email, Feng Qi finally knew the secret of the Scarlet Institute. It turned out that there was a group of anonymous heroes who were willing to sacrifice themselves to participate in the rune modification experiment. They had always stood on the side of humanity and never gave up hope. After reading the email, he already had a general idea of how the Scarlet Institute would develop in the future. The reverse osmosis plan failed in the end. Otherwise, what he saw in the future dream wouldn't be the ruins of human civilization. He guessed that as the enemy lurking in the dark gradually launched a plan against the Scarlet Institute, the follow-up plan of the Scarlet Institute would be carried out. The situation was not optimistic, but the Scarlet Institute wouldn't fall so easily. After all, it was one of the few special institutions with the highest authority. It had a very deep foundation. Unless the organization lurking in the dark decided to go all out, it would be impossible for them to destroy the Scarlet Institute easily. There was bound to be a struggle between the two sides. It was just that the mysterious force was in the dark, and the Scarlet Institute was in a very passive position. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered the last time he checked the future database. He saw that Vivian was labeled as a human traitor by the future people. Now, he felt that perhaps Vivian's participation in a follow-up operation exposed her situation, and it was very likely that she would expose information that was unfavorable to the Scarlet Institute. Therefore, she chose to sacrifice herself to protect the Scarlet Institute. It's also possible that the mysterious force caught information that was unfavorable to the Scarlet Institute, and it was related to Vivian. It was the Scarlet Institute that chose to sacrifice itself to survive and protect itself with Vivian's sacrifice. And Vivian chose to accept it. She used her own death in exchange for the continuation of the Scarlet Institute and resisted all the unfavorable loopholes that were exposed. After hearing the narration, Feng Qi couldn't help but sigh. No matter what the reason was, Vivian's ending was destined to be a tragedy. She had spent her entire life working hard for the future of mankind, but in the end she had become a sinner who was despised by the world. Isn't this exactly what you experienced in the future? You have to understand that the road to a beautiful future is full of thorns and twists, but the most respectable thing about humans is their noble attitude in the face of despair. There will always be people who are unwilling to give in, even if the hope is slim. Vivian is like that, and so are you. Hearing the narrator's words, he shook his head helplessly. You don't have to comfort me. I'm fine. I'm not that weak. That's good. Now that you know that the Scarlet Institute is an ally, perhaps you can choose to cooperate with them. For example, perhaps the Scarlet Institute can help you realize the brain in a jar project that Mofe suggested. After all, the Scarlet Institute specializes in biological sciences. If you choose to cooperate with them, you might be able to find your own brain in the Scarlet Institute's underground base. But if I really want to implement this plan, the future me will suffer. The future you will still be you. You all have the same idea. If one day you need to be sacrificed, you won't hesitate. So, don't feel guilty. Everything is for the future. Of course, if you really feel bad, you can kowtow to your future self. Feng Qi was speechless. Maybe I can even get an access account from the Scarlet Institute. Yes, as long as the Scarlet Institute can hold on until the Star City Sanctuary is built, they will definitely help you get an access account. If the Scarlet Institute is destroyed by the Dark Forces before the Star City Sanctuary is built, then the situation will be different. In short, this is a possible timeline. Makes sense. Feng Qi immediately nodded. Don't make sense. Xiao He is on his way here. It's about time to leave. I spent too much time checking my email. Hearing the reminder from the narrator, he looked at the time at the bottom right corner of the screen and walked toward the metal tunnel without hesitation. After obtaining the blood essence and the evil thoughts, his strength had indeed been greatly improved. However, he knew that this ability was nothing in front of Blackie. Following the inclined metal tunnel, he left the Star City underground shelter and came to the outside world. After scanning his surroundings, he walked toward the east and couldn't help but ask. Narrator, you've been guiding me to the east. What's there? I didn't want to answer before because you were too weak. It was difficult to even walk to the city ruins. Even if I told you, you wouldn't be able to do it. But now, maybe you can give it a try. I sensed a weak life force in the east, as well as countless energy nodes further away. Especially this life force, it seems out of place in this world. I don't know what it is. Out of place in this world? The narrator's words stunned him. He couldn't help but guess that the life force mentioned by the narrator was a human survivor. This world was shrouded in the territorial field. The only life force that could be out of place in the territorial field seemed to be the life of the original world. Thinking of this, he immediately asked, Is it very far from where I am? If it's an energy node, you won't be able to reach it with your current speed and strength unless you can kill Xiao He who's been chasing you. As for the location of the weak life force, you might be able to reach it. You can give it a try. Let's give it a try. Feng Qi immediately nodded. After making up his mind, he ran toward the city ruins. Telekinetic flight was fast, but it couldn't last long. Therefore, he changed his strategy this time. While running, he used his mind. Suddenly, an invisible telekinetic force came out of his body and turned into a pushing force behind him, pushing him forward. This method consumed less spirit. At the same time, his running speed was greatly increased. He was much faster than before. Thadji, you're smart. You came up with a new way to use telekinesis so quickly. I've always been smart. Oh, not bad. You're just like me. Shut up. It only took Feng Qi half the usual time to arrive at the city ruins. Then, he slowed down his running speed. While looking around, he suddenly looked forward to meeting the blood-red eye again because killing it would increase his spirit's strength. Give up. Even if you meet it, you won't be able to defeat it. Do you think you'll be lucky enough to reap the benefits every time? Listen to my last piece of advice. It's not too late to turn back now. Let's walk the path of a muscular man of steel. When the time comes, you can shatter mountains and crack the earth with one punch. You can use your fists to appease your enemies. After listening to the narrator's sarcasm, he was slightly speechless. Can't I cultivate both my physical body and spells? Cultivate both? Let me imagine. Why am I imagining a muscular man holding a magic light stick? Demons and ghosts quickly disperse. Hetue, you can't dual cultivate. Magic will taint you. Feng Qi was speechless. After hearing the narrator's words, his mind automatically filled in the gap. Then, he felt a chill in his heart. Don't disgust me. The cultivation I'm talking about is both combat and spells. It's not the cultivation you described on the surface. Hetue, disgusting. Pui, the image you imagined is disgusting. While bickering, Feng Qi didn't let down his guard. He was constantly observing his surroundings. The further east he went, the higher the frequency of domain creatures appearing. Although he now had the ability to protect himself, he felt that it was better to be safe before he picked up the sucker. He kept moving forward along the familiar path. During this period, whenever he saw a domain creature from afar, Feng Qi would choose to take a detour and avoid using his life-saving abilities as much as possible. His target this time was the weak life source mentioned by the narrator. Time was very important to him. Even with the sucker helping him stall for time, he might not be able to find the weak life source in the limited time. While moving forward, he didn't miss any spirit herbs along the way. Under the narrator's instructions, he harvested them and put them into his body. These spirit herbs could help the sucker recover his strength so that he could stay in the dream for more time in the future. After a few hours of traveling, he arrived at the abandoned hospital area. Slowing down, he began to search for the sucker. After observing the vicinity of the abandoned hospital, he stepped into the abandoned hospital. In the end, he saw the sucker squatting on the ground foolishly, staring at the ground in a daze. The sucker seemed to have sensed Feng Qi's existence, and suddenly looked up at him. After a brief exchange of gazes, he grinned. "Sucker, I've brought delicious food to pick you up." As soon as he finished speaking, his body was sent flying backward by the sucker's impact. Then, he fell heavily to the ground. He got up from the ground and looked down at the adorable sucker. Then, he reached out and rubbed her little head. The birth of the sucker this time had something to do with him in the future. After all, in this timeline, he had been Vivian's assistant for a period of time. During this period, he must have assisted in Mu Qing's cloning and replication experiment. TSK, how shameless. Being responsible for pouring coffee for Vivian to refresh herself is considered participating in the creation of the little sucker? Hetue. Feng Qi was speechless. I can't be bothered with you. He looked down at the sucker again. Then, he reached out and took out a spirit herb that emitted a fragrance from his chest. He brought it to the sucker's mouth. Eat. The sucker sniffed the spirit herb. Then, it opened its mouth and took a big bite. After tasting it, the sucker's grayish-white eyes lit up. It swallowed the spirit herb in a few bites. After feeding the sucker all 4 spirit herbs he picked along the way, Feng Qi decided to continue on his journey with the sucker. This time, he didn't want to turn back to Star City Sanctuary. He planned to continue exploring east and try to find the weak life force mentioned by the narrator. Whether he could find it or not was completely unknown. Therefore, time was of the essence. For this reason, he even gave up on exploring the second-floor basement laboratory of the Scarlet Institute base. Before he continued, he looked around and climbed to the top of a tall building. He began to locate Xiao Hei's current situation. Under normal circumstances, the distance between him and Xiao Hei shouldn't be too far. Therefore, without using the sucker, it was best to find an opponent for Xiao Hei to delay Xiao Hei's progress. As for the sucker, it would be a protective artifact for him to explore east. Without the protection of the sucker, he felt that he would most likely die on the way. After determining Xiao Hei's current location, Feng Qi looked down at the nearby area and began to look for territory creatures. With the help of the narrator, he quickly found an opponent for Xiao He. It was an elemental life form with electric sparks all over its body. Its body was almost transparent. He could clearly see the circular blue energy core inside. At this moment, it was lying in a corner of the street. Its body was surrounded by electric arcs and looked very dangerous. After confirming the target, he jumped straight down from the building. Just as his feet were about to touch the ground, psychokinesis came out of his body and held him firmly. Good! After dispersing his psychokinesis and landing on the ground, Feng Qi grinned. Bah! Landing without making a big hole in the ground is not masculine at all. Feng Qi was speechless. Chapter 115. Feng Qi looked down at the sucker lying on his chest with her eyes closed. He reached out and rubbed her little head with a smile on his face. Just now, when he lured the elemental being surrounded by electric arcs toward Xiao He, something almost happened. When the sucker sensed that he was about to be attacked by the elemental being, it was instantly activated and entered combat mode. If he had not held onto it with all his might and the sucker did not struggle as if it was afraid that he would be hurt, the situation now would have been a three-way battle between the sucker and the elemental being against Xiao He. Fortunately, after he left in time, the sucker finally stopped struggling and fell into a deep sleep again. Aside, how far is it? He could not help but ask as he shuttled through the dilapidated buildings. Unable to determine the exact distance. In short, there's still a long way to go. You should be prepared for failure. It's very likely that you'll die halfway. Hearing this, Feng Qi said helplessly, "Can't you say something nice? Can't you say something nice and give me some motivation? Don't attack me so easily. Do I look like a system that knows how to say nice things?" Feng Qi was speechless. I was reckless. While they were chatting, Feng Qi ran through the city ruins. His mental energy continued to transform into psychokinesis to push behind him, increasing his running speed. After an unknown amount of time, when his psychokinesis was completely exhausted, he slowed down. At this time, the area he was in was still surrounded by dilapidated buildings. Countless buildings had already collapsed under the ravages of time. What he saw was a scene of devastation. After running for a while, he stopped. At this time, not far away, a large snake blocked his path. Its entire body was covered in red scales, and it was 5 to 6 meters long. A pink rune crystal was embedded at 7 inches, and the tip of its tail was constantly swinging like a rattlesnake. Its green vertical pupils were staring straight at him, and it flicked its tongue from time to time, emitting a dangerous aura. Seeing a territory creature, Feng Qi instinctively wanted to take a detour. However, after looking at the sucker in his arms, he was fearless and immediately walked toward the red-scaled snake. When he was about 10 meters away from the red-scaled snake, he stopped, picked up the sucker, and threw it at it. At this moment, the red-scaled snake opened its mouth and revealed its bloody mouth. Then, its body shot up like a spring and bit towards the suction cup. After breaking away from his body, the sucker opened its eyes in the air and was swallowed into the belly of the red-scaled snake. Beautiful, the essence is in the stomach. This ball counts as 3 points, right? Feng Qi was speechless. Just as he was about to reply, the red-scaled snake that had swallowed the sucker suddenly exploded from the middle. The violent airflow even engulfed the surrounding minced meat, twisting it into a bloody mist. When the blood mist dissipated, Suction Cup stood in place with her fists raised. Although she was only the size of a child, she looked very domineering. As the jade-colored radiance circulated on his body, the minced meat and blood stains on the surface of his sucker slid down one after another. Did you see that? This is the growth path you should choose. Break all skills with one punch, and not hide behind to release skills, and beat them up with a bunch of bio. I can't be bothered with you. He reached out and caught the sucker that had pounced on him. After letting it reattach to his chest, he continued on his journey. The blood moon in the sky never set, so Feng Qi didn't know how much time had passed. What he needed to do was to keep moving east until he found that faint trace of life. He was very curious about the life fluctuations that were incompatible with this world. Could it be a human that survived the apocalypse? With curiosity and anticipation towards the unknown, he shuttled through the dilapidated high-rise buildings and moved forward quickly. During this period, his spiritual power gradually recovered, and he could use his telekinesis again. His speed increased. In the past, when he encountered domain creatures, he followed the principle of avoiding them as much as possible. Even if he had to take a detour, he wouldn't take the initiative to provoke them. After all, he didn't have the confidence to win, and it would be a great loss if he died. But now that he had the sucker, the situation was completely different. It was impossible to take a detour. He had to walk in a straight line. If he encountered a domain creature directly in front of him, he would throw the sucker. If there was no path, then he would let the sucker create one for him. The only thing that Feng Qi felt regretful was that as long as the sucker was used, the domain creature would die without a doubt. It would definitely be an instant kill. He wouldn't even have the chance to finish it off. It was completely impossible to get the sucker to help him obtain his innate ability. After walking for an unknown period of time, the number of buildings along the way gradually decreased. What appeared in the distance was a vast plain that stretched for miles. At this time, it also started to rain. Accompanied by the rolling dark clouds in the sky, blood-colored raindrops drifted down like mist. White smoke rose from the parts of his body that were hit by the blood raindrop. Realizing that the blood rain was corrosive, he immediately sped up his pace. But soon, Feng Qi calmed down again. He realized that the corrosive damage of the blood rain couldn't break through his defense at all. The self-recovery ability brought by the very strong attribute allowed him to be completely unafraid of such minor damage. How is it? Do you realize the beauty of the growth path of muscle flow? A strong self-recovery ability is only the beginning. As long as your body is cultivated to the extreme, you can even use your body to travel through space and go wherever you want. No matter how serious your injuries are, they can be healed in the blink of an eye. This is the growth path you should take. Look at the sucker again. The blood rain is still smoking when it drips on your body, but it doesn't even react when it drips on the sucker. This is the difference in physical strength. Yes. You're right. I'm listening carefully. Feng Qi looked helpless and perfunctory. He lowered his head and looked at the sucker that was still sleeping. He continued on his way. Dark clouds rolled in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. He could vaguely see a stalwart figure in the dark clouds swallowing lightning and absorbing the natural power of heaven and earth. This strange world was filled with all kinds of mysterious and terrifying domain creatures. He knew that what he was experiencing now was just the tip of the iceberg. The road ahead was difficult and dangerous. There was still a long way to go. After walking for an unknown period of time, he finally walked out of the city ruins. As the blood rain continued to fall, the road ahead became very muddy. His speed of progress slowed down. Stepping into the vast plains, he continued to move forward according to the narration's instructions. The plains were filled with white flowers. Under the scouring of the blood rain, they were not stained red. They were still swaying in the wind. After plucking a white flower, he asked curiously, "Narration, is this plant a spirit plant?" "This thing is the same as a plant in reality. It's just that it grows in a domain and is nourished by the spirit energy of heaven and earth, so it looks a little different. It can be used as food, but it can't be considered a spirit plant. Let me explain to you here. Spirit plants are generally plants that can actively absorb the spirit energy of heaven and earth or the special energy around them. Non-spirit plants are plants that are passively nourished by the spirit energy of heaven and earth. The difference is quite big. I see. Feng Qi immediately nodded. After stepping into the plains, the environment here became more dangerous compared to the city ruins. There were buildings in the city ruins. In addition, the terrain was relatively complicated. There was still room to maneuver if he encountered a domain creature. But here, there was no shelter at all. It was difficult to escape. It seemed to be because of this reason that there were very few domain creatures on the plains. They were scattered in all directions. With the suction cup in hand, he had no intention of taking a detour. He continued to move forward. Even if he encountered a domain creature, it would only delay him for a few seconds. After moving forward for a while, he encountered the first domain creature in the plains. Its shape was very strange. It looked like a scarecrow. Its body was slanted into the ground. If not for the faint glow of the rune crystal on its forehead, he would not have thought that it was a domain creature. After approaching the area where the scarecrow was, he was about to throw the suction cup when two scarlet eyes appeared on the scarecrow's face. Then, he felt his body tighten. He started to lose control. His consciousness also became very slow. It was as if he was drunk and could not control his body normally. Oh, the mental bewitchment style. A very special style. Under the scarecrow's control, Feng Qi slowly raised his hand and grabbed his neck. He began to exert force. Fortunately, the suction cup opened its eyes and slid away from his body. As if it sensed the threat of the suction cup, the scarecrow's eyes turned scarlet. Its mental power turned into a light red energy wave and spread toward the suction cup. A jade-colored light appeared on the surface of the suction cup. It flowed and covered her entire body. The red light that radiated on her body could not penetrate this layer of energy barrier. It was very effective against Feng Qi's mental control, but it was useless against the suction cup. At this moment, the suction cup jumped up from the ground like a rabbit and pounced toward the scarecrow. When she threw a punch, the violent air was compressed and then poured forward. The wind from the punch was like an air cannon that suddenly smashed into the scarecrow. With a crisp crack, the scarecrow was broken by the wind from the punch. Then, its body turned into pieces and floated forward. Seeing this scene, Feng Qi, who had regained control of his body, could not help but be shocked. Too strong. Did you see that? The ultimate physical enhancement can defeat all monsters and monsters. There is no fancy combat system that cannot be defeated with one punch. If there is, then two punches. Ignoring the narrator's words, he reached out and caught the suction cup that pounced at him. Then, he continued on his way. After seeing the mysterious power of the scarecrow, he was suddenly worried that there might be domain creatures that even the suction cup could not defeat. They might have a mysterious power that could bypass the suction cup and directly kill him. As he continued forward, he did not know how far he had walked. Since the blood moon in the sky never set, he did not even know how long he had walked. At this moment, the narrator's notification sounded. Xiao Hei, that bastard has caught up. You can't catch the wolf without sacrificing the child. It's time to abandon the child. Hearing the narrator's reminder, he looked back and saw Xiao Hei, who was shrouded in black fog, floating quickly toward him. Looking around, there was not a single domain creature nearby that could help him block the attack. While feeling helpless, he looked down at the suction cup. Then, he reached out and rubbed her little head. Sorry. Pfft, hypocritical scumbag. How many times have you heartlessly abandoned me? If I were the suction cup, I would submit to Xiao Hei and join forces with it to kill you. Feng Qi was speechless. At this moment, Xiao Hei was already close. He rubbed the suction cup's little head again and threw it at Xiao Hei. I'll definitely avenge you. With that, he turned around and continued on his way without hesitation. At this moment, he heard a voice beside him. I'm like a savior. I don't want feelings, strength, and money. Chapter 116. Without the suction cups, Feng Qi couldn't be arrogant anymore. He was completely terrified. Whenever he encountered a domain creature along the way, he would decisively take a detour. His route forward was no longer straight ahead, but a zigzag one. Without the suction cups, he felt as if his arms were broken, and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Don't flatter yourself. You're just a thrower. Without your main weapon, you're naturally not lethal at all. You even King broke your arms. I even said that the richest man and I combined our wealth to be ranked first in the world. Am I arrogant? Feng Qi was speechless. Ignoring the narrator's blow, he continued on his way. The plains had no end in sight. Along the way there were white flowers swaying in the wind. Every time the cold wind blew, the sea of flowers would ripple like waves, making a rustling sound. After walking for an unknown period of time, he saw a domain creature in front of him from afar. It looked like it was made of stone. Its body was more than 5 meters tall, like a small mountain standing there. The black runic crystal in the center of its body shimmered under the blood moon, and there were clear purple stripes all over its body. Feng Qi, who had already noticed this domain creature, decisively chose to take a detour. However, the narrator's voice sounded in his mind. Remember this thing. If you have the strength in the future, you must come and kill it. Hearing the narrator's words, he couldn't help but ask curiously, what ability can I get from killing it? One of the must-have talents for muscular men. I don't know the specific name. After all, I'm not the one who named the talent ability. In short, this thing's ability is very suitable for you. It's much better than the evil thoughts of that eyeball. Hearing this, Feng Qi's interest was immediately piqued. Since the narrator said that it was suitable for him, then the talent ability obtained from killing this stone mountain would definitely not be weak. If I attack now, what are my chances of winning? You'll definitely die. What about activating the blood source and psychokinesis? Do you see the purple runic patterns on the surface of this thing? This thing can help it be immune to many spells and elemental damage. Your telekinesis has little effect on it. Its defense can be said to be the nemesis of magic. It is a bit similar to the jade-colored mist on the surface of the sucker. As for your blood source ability, with your current vitality, the power you obtain after activating this ability isn't even 1/10 of his. How are you going to fight it? So strong. After listening to the narrator's explanation, his restless thoughts were immediately extinguished. After taking another look at the stone mountain, he decisively chose to take a detour. Because the distance was far enough, the stone mountain did not have any reaction, allowing him to successfully bypass it and continue forward. After walking for an unknown period of time, he looked back and could no longer see Xiao He and the sucker. Narrator, how far am I? I've been walking for a long time, haven't I? Soon. Hurry up. Don't waste the precious time the sucker bought for you. Who knows, you might be able to find that wisp of life this time. Hearing this, Feng Qi immediately nodded. After releasing his telekinesis into a push force, he once again took a step forward and ran forward. As time passed, the blood rain in the sky gradually stopped. The originally gloomy sight regained some light as the dark clouds dispersed. However, the whole world was still shrouded in haze and filled with chilling coldness. With his mental strength exhausted again, he once again slowed down. Finally, the narrator's voice sounded in his mind. Climb the steep slope in front. The target should be here. Try to find it. Hearing the narrator's reminder, Feng Qi climbed up the steep slope excitedly, then looked up in front of him. He thought that a post-apocalyptic human camp might appear in his sight. However, the situation was the opposite of what he imagined. What appeared in front of him was a huge sinkhole that was more than 100 meters deep. It looked like it was formed by a meteorite impact. At the same time, he also noticed that there seemed to be something shining under the blood moon at the bottom of the sinkhole. It should be that thing. Go take a look. Don't worry about whether it's safe or not. The purpose of this trip is to investigate what this thing is." After hearing the narrator's words, he immediately nodded. After climbing over the steep slope, he leaned back and slid to the bottom of the sinkhole. However, because the slope was too steep, his body quickly rushed out of the slope and fell straight to the bottom of the sinkhole from a height of 100 meters. Feng Qi did not panic at all. At the moment when his body was about to touch the ground, he released his telekinesis to lift his body. However, the impact of inertia seemed to be a little too strong. His mental strength that had not been fully recovered was instantly drained. His body still slightly collided with the ground. He got up from the ground and looked at the glowing object. What appeared in his sight was a woman's statue. The statue was made of an unknown material and had a soft jade-like color under the blood moon. The statue was about 1.65 meters tall and seemed to be made in a 1:1 ratio. She held a long spear and pointed to the void. Her gaze seemed to penetrate the layers of haze that shrouded the sky and looked directly at the starry sky. "What is this? I'm not sure. I sense a weak fluctuation of life in this statue. Go up and take a closer look." With doubts, he took a few steps forward to the statue. After careful observation, he suddenly felt that the statue of the woman with the spear seemed somewhat familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen it. What made him even more puzzled was, what was the meaning of this woman's statue standing here? Do you think you're an archaeologist? Look at the statue and find the meaning. Hurry up and find the source of the fluctuation of life. Feng Qi heard and immediately nodded. Coming to the statue, he began to carefully search for the source of life that might exist. However, after walking around the statue, he still did not find any foreign objects. This made him suspect that the fluctuation of life mentioned by the narrator came from inside the statue. However, the moment he reached out and touched the woman's statue, the mysterious nightmare ability automatically activated at this moment. In an instant, countless images appeared in his mind. In the first image, a bustling city was covered by a domain. Countless monsters descended and wantonly destroyed the city. In the end, the city was turned into ruins and most people died in the massacre of the domain creatures. At the end of the image, a boy with blood flowing from his forehead came step by step from the ruins to the border of the city. His eyes were filled with despair and bone-chilling anger. Behind him, a distorted monster was quickly chasing after him. Just as the little boy was about to lose his life to the domain creature, a silver spear streaked across the sky and accurately nailed the domain creature behind the little boy. At the end of the image, the girl on the statue stood in front of the little boy with a smile. "Hey, what's your name?" "Emperor Yi. Do you want revenge?" "Yes. I can give you power. I hope you won't disappoint me." As she spoke, the girl on the statue held the little boy's hand and led him out of the ruined city step by step. The first image ended here. Just as Feng Qi was wondering why one of the historical war gods, Emperor Yi, would appear in this memory, the image in his mind jumped. The second image appeared in a laboratory. A gray-haired man in a white research institute uniform was sitting in front of the control panel dispiritedly. At this moment, the door was smashed open. A group of men in black uniforms arrived and began to destroy the experimental equipment here. The man in the lead looked at the dispirited researcher and scolded angrily. "We strictly forbid the rune-modified humans project here. Since you're not cooperating, we'll take care of the equipment here for you." In the end, everything in the laboratory was removed by the law enforcers in black, leaving only the exhausted middle-aged man sitting in a daze. At this moment, the girl on the statue appeared beside him. "Hey, I think the rune-modified humans project is good. Perhaps you can persevere a little longer." The man sitting in a daze was clearly stunned when he heard this. He then shook his head. "No, I'm tired. Every attempt is a failure. Persevere a little longer. I'll give you something good." As she spoke, The girl took out a scarlet runic crystal and handed it to the middle-aged man with a smile. Then, she opened her mouth and spoke again. I have some money. Why don't I support you in opening another laboratory? But don't announce to the public that you're continuing the rune-modified humans project. You have to take it slow. After taking the scarlet rune crystal from the girl, the middle-aged man was obviously stunned. He didn't seem to understand why she was helping him. I've even thought of a name for the laboratory for you. Look at this rune crystal. It's scarlet. Since you started with this rune crystal, this laboratory will be called the Scarlet Laboratory in the future. The second image came to an abrupt end here. Immediately after, a new image appeared in Feng Qi's mind. In the image, the girl on the statue sat on a bench in the park. She looked at the little boy who was licking a lollipop and asked with a serious expression, "Little brat, I see that you're a one-in-a-million martial arts prodigy. Tell me, what's your dream?" Slurp, slurp, slurp. Do you have any dreams? Perhaps I can help you achieve them, but you have to promise me that you'll work hard for the rest of your life for the rise of mankind. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Faced with the little boy's indifference, the girl on the statue was silent for a moment. Then, she smiled and said, "If you don't answer, I'll take it as a yes." The third image was very broken and incomplete. Immediately after, the fourth image appeared in Feng Qi's mind. In this image, a beautiful young woman was sitting on the edge of a bed, vomiting blood continuously. Feng Qi was very familiar with her appearance. She was the director of the genetics department of the Scarlet Institute, Vivian. When her life was in danger, the girl on the statue appeared beside her. She smiled and said, "Can you still speak?" Seeing the girl, Vivian wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and asked weakly, "How did you get in?" The girl didn't say anything. Instead, she said with a distressed expression, "Your physical condition is very bad. Were you radiated by the rune crystal energy of a special domain creature? Well, with the current medical technology, it seems that you won't be able to be saved." Hearing this, Vivian rolled her eyes. She coughed and said, "That's right. It can't be saved. I'm waiting for death now." At this time, the girl took out a shining bead from somewhere and handed it to Vivian. "Eat it. You'll be fine after eating it, but you have to promise me that you'll continue to work hard for the future of mankind for the rest of your life." "What is this?" Vivian asked in surprise. "It's good stuff. You'll know after eating it. Remember our agreement. It might take a long time, hee. The fourth image abruptly stopped at this moment, followed by the fifth image. The figure that appeared in the image this time was Mu Qing. Chapter 117. P.S. This chapter is suitable for eating with the BGM Banished Immortal, because I coded it while listening to this song. In the scene, Mu Qing was wearing a black combat uniform and the commander's medal of the Dawn Domain. She was eating in a restaurant. Compared to Feng Qi's impression of her, the present Mu Qing had lost her childishness. Even her appearance had changed quite a bit. The surrounding passers-by no longer looked at her with fear and disdain. Their eyes were filled with reverence and respect. At this moment, Mu Qing was no longer the adorable loli who only knew how to eat. She already had the aura of a mature sister, but her eyes were cold and determined. At this moment, the mysterious girl appeared in the scene and sat opposite Mu Qing. She curiously sized up Mu Qing, who was eating with her chin propped up. Mu Qing looked up at the girl with a puzzled expression. "What's the matter?" I wasn't wrong about that, uncle. They did it." The mysterious girl appeared very happy as she looked at the scarlet runic crystal on Mu Qing's left arm. Under Mu Qing's puzzled gaze, she eagerly said, "Mu Qing, are you interested in doing something big with me? I don't know you, right? But I've known you for a long time, and I've always been paying attention to your growth. I know what you desire, and what you desire is what I desire." Upon hearing this, Mu Qing's expression changed slightly. "What do you think I desire?" You have the same desire as Feng Qi. Unfortunately, Feng Qi died early. Otherwise, I would definitely have supported him." Upon hearing the words, Feng Qi, Mu Qing's body trembled. She hadn't heard this unfamiliar name for a long time, but it had never been vague in her heart. "What are you trying to say?" Mu Qing asked coldly. "I want to fight for humanity." When she said this, the mysterious girl's playful smile vanished as she became extremely solemn. "I'm fighting for humanity right now," Mu Qing said solemnly. "You're only doing small things now. After so many years of training, you already have an extremely exquisite battle command ability. Coupled with your super strength, it's time for you to do something really big." As time passed, there were fewer and fewer people in the restaurant. Mu Qing continued to listen to the girl's story. When the girl talked about how excited she was, she couldn't help but dance and use her body language. She was very naughty and cute. Mu Qing's indifferent expression gradually changed a little. "So you mean to build a scavenger army and merge the scavenger forces?" "That's right. Let's build a strong army first, and then we can carry out our follow-up plans." "What's the follow-up plan?" I can't tell you for now. I'm afraid that the people around you aren't safe. Telling you now is risky, so let's build an army first. I'll help you." The image became blurry here. When he saw Mu Qing appear in the memory, Feng Qi suddenly realized who this mysterious girl was. She was the mysterious girl Murakami that he had seen in the database. She was also the future leader of the Lumin Clan. From these memory fragments, he also confirmed one of his previous conjectures. Murakami was the miracle that Lu Yu spoke of. She seemed to be constantly searching for any power that could help humanity rise. The founder of the Scarlet Institute, Mu Qing, Emperor Yi, the mysterious boy, Vivian. Other than the mysterious boy, he didn't know much about. Everyone was standing at the forefront of the fight against the domain creatures. At this moment, he thought of something that Lu Yu said. He described the mysterious girl like this. "She has lived for a long time and has always been searching for miracles for humanity. She has never given up despite the setbacks. In my eyes, she is the miracle of humanity." The content of the image seemed to confirm what Lu Yu said. She constantly searched for miracles or nurtured miracles, but all she got was failure. The Domain Army Alliance established by Emperor Yi no longer existed in history. Mu Qing's Lumin can also perished under the bloody suppression. Vivian and the Scarlet Institute also had the same ending. In the end, they were subverted by the dark forces. Perhaps there was still a lot of information that he didn't know, but the forces that he knew about Murakami were all destroyed in the end. When the fifth image ended, a brand new memory appeared in Feng Qi's mind. At this moment, he felt an unbearable pain in his head, as if it would explode. The large amount of information was too much for him to bear. The sixth image was in the Scarlet Institute, in Vivian's private laboratory. In the image, Murakami hugged the sucker and rubbed her face against the sucker's face. Her voice was slightly bewitching. "Little Mu Qing, you have to grow up quickly. When you learn the skills, you have to work hard for the rise of humanity." The sucker had a look of disdain, but she still nodded vigorously. Not far away, Vivian, who was wearing a scientific research suit, saw this scene and said helplessly, "Old woman, it's time to go. This isn't a place for you to stay. Be careful that I don't capture you and use you as an experimental subject. I've been eyeing your body for a long time." Hearing Vivian's words, Murakami ignored her. Instead, she pinched the sucker's cheek lovingly and asked, "Who combed your hair? It's so beautiful." Hearing this, a surprised smile appeared on the sucker's face. "I sent a few combs, and it took me a long time to comb it. Great, you must become a great person." When this image ended, Feng Qi felt that his head could no longer bear the burden. The seventh image, the eighth image. A large number of images surged in his mind like broken glass, but they could no longer be pieced together. Just as he was feeling unbearable pain, the broken images finally merged together. In this image, Murakami was wearing a broken armor and still had a smile on her face. It seemed that all the despair and sorrow in the world couldn't defeat her. Her heart was still firm despite the disappointment and despair again and again. At this moment, there was a vast and endless number of domain creatures in front of her. They were rushing towards her quickly, but there was no fear in her eyes. The silver-white spear in her hand pointed straight ahead as she ran towards the domain creatures in the sky. The silver spear let out a dragon's roar as it swept across. The spiritual energy in the world gathered, and a silver dragon appeared and circled above Murakami's head. As the spear pointed forward, the dragon roared and pounced towards the domain creatures in front of it. At this moment she was like a god of war. Wherever her figure passed, all the domain creatures died under the spear. Even those terrifying domain creatures with terrifying strength that could tear space apart with a raise of their hands were still powerless in front of Murakami. They were enveloped by the silver lotuses in the blossoming silver light, and their lives quickly withered. This battle seemed to be the final battle before the world was enveloped by the domain creatures. Feng Qi could see the curtain formed by the black fog slowly enveloping this world. At the same time, a blood moon slowly rose from the horizon. The sun seemed to be swallowed by the blood moon, and at this moment it became dim. Feng Qi could clearly feel the sadness and despair in Murakami's heart in the image, but she still didn't give up and chose to continue fighting. Even if she was the only one left in the world. At this moment, countless fragmented images appeared in Feng Qi's mind. On the mountain peak where the wind howled, Murakami stood with her silver spear on her back. She opened her hands and smiled as she looked at the sun and shouted, "I, Murakami, never admit defeat. If there are no miracles, then I will create one." In a remote scavenger village outside the city, Mu Xiaoxiao looked at the dirty little girl in front of her and laughed with her hands on her hips. "Ha ha, I found another miracle that I can look forward to. I'm so happy." Heavy snow swirled in the air. Murakami was lying flat in the snow with serious injuries. Blood flowed and dyed the white snow red, but she ignored her injuries. Instead, she pouted and looked at the sky and muttered, "I failed again. Although I'm used to it, my heart still hurts. I've been dealt a blow." Under the bright moonlight, Murakami shuttled through the clouds and looked down at the earth. She hummed with joy, "Miracle, miracle, where are you? Don't hide, I'm coming to catch you, la 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 la." Through these memory images, he could clearly feel the unwavering belief in Murakami's heart from beginning to end. If there were no miracles, then she would create one with her own hands. This belief was incomparably firm in her heart. Even when the world was about to be swallowed by the domain, it did not waver in the slightest. Although the way she chose was different, she was like you. Although she constantly experienced despair, she still did not give up on the possibility of a glimmer of hope. She always looked forward to the arrival of a miracle. "Aji, so you are not alone." Hearing the narration, Feng Qi could not help but sigh. At this moment, his heart was touched. At the end of the fragmented memory images, the haze in the sky gradually enveloped the earth. Murakami held a spear in one hand, blood dripping down the tattered armor. But she still did not take a step back. In the sky, on the ground, as far as the eye could see, there were domain monsters everywhere. She fearlessly stood with her spear. Wherever her figure passed, silver lotuses bloomed. No domain monster was a match for her. But as the black curtain in the sky gradually enveloped the entire world, Murakami's combat strength became weaker and weaker. The domain monsters that she could easily kill before could no longer be killed with a wave of her hand. It was as if she was connected to this world. As the world was enveloped and swallowed by the domain, she was also heading towards destruction. The moment the sky was completely covered by the curtain formed by the gathering dark clouds, Murakami's body was covered by a layer of jade-colored flowing light. Her movements began to become stiffer and stiffer. The moment before her body completely froze, she waved her spear and pointed it at the sky. The anger, hatred, and despair in her heart turned into strength at this moment and suddenly erupted. An invisible force suddenly spread out in all directions with her as the center. Wherever the shock wave passed, the domain monsters were all killed and turned into dust. The ground also collapsed and sank with a loud bang, quickly forming a huge crater. Looking at the constantly sinking sky and gradually being replaced by the blood moon, Murakami's face showed a trace of loneliness. Then, a teardrop fell from her eyes. She softly murmured, "No one stands with me at dusk." At this moment, Feng-chi felt the loneliness in Murakami's heart before her life faded away. Her efforts were exchanged for failure time and time again, but she chose to face it with optimism. Then, she pulled herself together and continued to search for illusory miracles. She was a witness of history, and also a promoter of history. At this moment, the emotions buried deep in her heart that she had never revealed finally turned into a lonely sigh as the sun sank. No one stands with me at dusk. When her body completely solidified, she turned into a statue holding a spear and pointing it at the sky. Heavy rain fell from the sky, as if the world was giving a final farewell to this unyielding warrior. Chapter 118. When Feng-chi pulled back his hand that was in contact with Murakami's statue, the images in his mind immediately receded like a tide. Murakami's memories were too large, he could not read them all. He had only read a portion of the content. Looking at Murakami, who was pointing her spear at the void, he felt a deep sense of respect. He suddenly understood why Liu Yu called Murakami a miracle. This was a warrior worthy of respect. Until her death, she fought for the future of humanity and never gave in. Looking at Murakami again, he had a lot of doubts in his mind. He could not determine the relationship between Murakami and Heavenly Road based on the information in the memories, but he guessed that Heavenly Road was a force established by Murakami, similar to the Scarlet Institute and Lumin Kan. At this time, the narration's voice sounded in his mind. If you want to obtain more memories, quickly increase your bloodline evolution points. Only by increasing your bloodline's rank can your sea of consciousness contain more information. Hearing the narration's reminder, he could not help but ask curiously, "Is it because my sea of consciousness doesn't have enough storage?" "You can't say that. Storage is one thing, but the more important thing is that the speed of processing information is too slow. Before your sea of consciousness can finish processing the previous information, the subsequent memory fragments will be poured into your sea of consciousness. You will naturally feel pain and will not be able to continue looking at Murakami's memories." "I understand. As long as my sea of consciousness is strengthened, my ability to process information will also be strengthened. It will be easier to look through Murakami's memories. You can be taught." While rolling his eyes, he began to think about another problem. What are the conditions to trigger the nightmare ability? Since obtaining this ability, the nightmare had triggered it twice. The first time was when Mu Qing was about to lose control. He accidentally came into contact with Mu Qing's body. His consciousness instantly invaded Mu Qing's sea of consciousness and read a portion of her memories. The second time was now, when he came into contact with Murakami's statue. Narrator, do you think the trigger condition of the nightmare is related to the target's unstable mental state? Oh, how would I know? Don't look for narration for no reason. Narration isn't an encyclopedia that knows everything. It's just a heartless robot. But maybe your guess is right. Feng-chi was speechless. He wasn't completely sure about his guess. It might not be right to say that she was in a mental disorder. Mu Xiaoxiao seemed to be dead, but he could still read her memories? Thinking of this, he immediately asked, "Narrator, is Murakami dead?" "I'm not sure. I can sense faint life waves from the statue, but these waves don't seem to be the characteristics of a living being." Could it be a state of hibernation? Winter, your big watermelon. How can I not tell if she's in a deep sleep? You don't trust my judgment. So, is she dead or alive? I'm not sure. There's a high chance that she's dead. Maybe some kind of indelible will left a trace of her life mark. Hearing this, Feng-Chi couldn't help but be confused. What do you mean? To put it simply, it's like a Sarira after death. Maybe Murakami's strong thoughts before she died caused some kind of will to not disappear with the dissipation of her life. Instead, it remained. After listening to the narrator's explanation, he was silent for a few seconds before nodding. He looked at Murakami's statue again. He felt that he might be able to learn a lot of useful information from Murakami. Murakami might even know which dark force was lurking in human civilization. At this moment, he had a desire to improve his strength. He also began to think about his future dream choices and whether to focus on improving his strength. However, he still had some worries in his heart. He felt that purely improving his strength might not necessarily change anything. First of all, there was the limitation of Xiao He. Secondly, there was the limitation of money. Perhaps even if he entered the future dream dozens of times, he still wouldn't be able to increase his strength to the point where he could fight against the dark forces. The most important thing was to rely on the strength of all human beings to fight against the domain invasion. Therefore, he was more inclined to first understand the true nature of the dark forces and then use his own advantage to eliminate them. Without the hidden malignant forces, the human civilization would be able to truly welcome great development. At the same time, he was very curious about one thing. Why was there only Murakami in the final battle in Murakami's memory? What about the rest of the humans? Did they already perish before the battle? He didn't know the answer to this question for now. He could only wait until his bloodline evolved and his sea of knowledge improved. Then, he could come to Murakami's statue to obtain useful information. However, increasing his bloodline evolution points was harder than directly increasing his strength. After entering the future dream so many times, his bloodline evolution points were still 400 points away from 1,000 points. Right now, it was still in the primary state and couldn't be filled up in a short period of time. He decided that the next time he returned to reality, he would properly plan the follow-up plan and then decide what to do next. However, the most important thing was to maximize efficiency. He didn't want to waste his precious chances of entering the future dream on meaningless things. He already knew the truth about the Scarlet Institute, but he still had many questions in his heart, other than the dark forces and the path to heaven. What puzzled him was that since the dark forces had been hindering the development of human civilization, why was his teacher, Wang Jinxing, always fine? He had not been harmed by the dark forces and had even been named a great man of history. If someone said that there was a problem with Wang Jinxing, he definitely wouldn't believe it. After 6 years of contact, he clearly knew what kind of person Lao Wang was. No matter what, he wouldn't betray humanity. Therefore, there must be some secrets that he didn't understand. On Lin Rant's side, Lin Rant's cultivation method had problems. Was it related to the dark forces, or was it Lin Rant's own problem? Also, Xiao Hei's origin, why was he able to accurately pinpoint his location and chase after him? There were many other questions that he couldn't understand. Since he couldn't figure out the reason, he planned to take it step by step and slowly uncover the truth hidden in history. After all, these questions were obviously not easy to find answers to. Just as Feng-Chi was deep in thought, the voice of the narrator sounded in his mind. Think about these questions when you return to reality. Since Xiao Hei hasn't arrived yet, if you don't do something, won't you be letting down the suckers who are fighting to buy time for you? Hearing the reminder from the narrator, Feng-Chi immediately nodded. Help me search for domain creatures nearby that are easy to bully. 15 o'clock, after climbing out of the sinkhole, There seems to be a domain creature that you might be able to defeat. Beat it up. Okay. After reading Murakami's memories, Feng-Chi deeply felt the loneliness and sadness in her heart. While feeling the same way, he felt a little depressed and needed to vent at this moment. Muscle Man, move out! Accompanied by the voice of the narrator, he released his telekinesis and flew up into the air with his body. It was very difficult to fly with telekinesis, but floating 100 meters was not a problem. In an instant, his figure appeared outside the sinkhole. After landing, he scanned the area in front of him and locked his gaze on a strange-looking domain creature. It was shaped like an elk with a pale yellow rune crystal embedded in its forehead. There was a pair of huge antlers on its head and grayish-white fur on its body. At this moment, it was lowering its head to eat the white flowers on the plains. After sizing it up, he could roughly confirm that the talent ability that this domain creature could give him was definitely leaning towards the direction of physical cultivation. Without hesitation, he immediately activated his blood source ability. The frequency of his heartbeat began to increase rapidly, and the vitality in his body was sucked dry, turning into a blood mist that enveloped his body. In an instant, he grew to more than 2 meters tall, and the muscles on his body congealed into block. His arms were comparable to battle axes, and thick veins could be seen clearly. He exuded a wild and valiant aura. The duration of the blood source ability was limited, so he immediately pounced on the domain creature that was eating. This domain creature was also frightened by Feng-Chi. Its body trembled violently, but it didn't choose to escape. Instead, it lowered its head and charged towards Feng-Chi after accumulating strength. At this moment, Feng-Chi's right arm smashed down, knocking the domain creature to the ground. Then, his telekinesis seeped out of his body and suppressed the domain creature for about a second. At this moment, he also closed in, grabbed one of the domain creature's legs, and began to violently smash it. As long as the domain creature showed signs of struggling, he would use his telekinesis to suppress it and then seize the opportunity to continue smashing it. Facing Feng-Chi, who was suppressing it with his strength, the domain creature let out a sorrowful cry, as if it had realized its ending. He did not have the slightest bit of pity in his heart. Only when he smashed the domain creature to death did he stop panting. A wisp of blood mist appeared from the domain creature's body and floated in front of him before being absorbed by his body. At this moment, the narrator's voice sounded in his mind. Let me replay the mental journey of that domain creature just now. The situation is roughly like this. I was eating grass when a monster covered in muscles suddenly jumped out. Without distinguishing between right and wrong, it ambushed me and hit me hard on the head. I was indignant and wanted to fight back, but I was suppressed by a mysterious force. Then, the muscular monster grabbed my right hind leg and smashed it left and right. I was so dizzy that I was about to vomit. F***ck your grandmother. Feng-Chi was speechless. Ignoring the narrator, he called out his stats interface. After killing the domain creature in front of him, he had indeed obtained a brand new talent ability and prefix title. Strong Teeth, Evolvable Prefix Title. The strength of the teeth has been greatly increased. When biting the target, there will be a portion of vitality damage. The additional damage is affected by the user's vitality. The higher the vitality, the higher the damage. After reading the description, Feng-Chi's face was full of question marks. What kind of lousy talent title is this? Muscle Man Growth Path. Every part of the body can become a lethal weapon. Teeth are the same. When necessary, you can use your mouth to injure others. It can also have unexpected effects. Awo your head. Other than getting 30+ bloodline evolution points, this talent ability is completely useless. It's simply useless. A superficial knowledge. Then why don't you say something more practical? I haven't thought of anything else, but when you return to reality, you will realize that You don't need a bottle opener to open the bottle cap anymore. Pay. Living dead spit. Disgusting. Reflect. Super reflect. Your next skill will be nullified. Idiot living dead. Chapter 119. After obtaining the Tough Teeth ability and the title, Xiao Hei still hadn't appeared. It was obviously unrealistic to return to the Star City fallout shelter now. Without the protection of the suction cups, the long journey, and Xiao Hei's pursuit, Feng Qi felt that he would definitely die on the way. While he still had time, he decided to continue hunting the nearby domain creatures to obtain abilities to increase his strength. Especially the bloodline evolution points, which were related to him reading Murakami's memories. Maybe Murakami's memories had detailed information about the dark forces. But he couldn't determine the strength of the domain creatures, so he had to rely on the narrator's detection ability. Thinking of this, he immediately said, "Narrator, before the blood ability dissipates, help me find another weak chicken. Poor working system, I don't get paid and still have to do this and that. I really hope you can obtain a special ability similar to the Eye of Truth and find one yourself." Eye of Truth, what kind of ability is that? Feng Qi was shocked. It's similar to my detection ability. After obtaining the Eye of Truth, you can read the target's detailed information. It's an extremely powerful soul analysis and detection ability. Hearing the narrator's explanation, his interest was immediately piqued. How do I obtain this ability? The strength of a domain creature with the Eye of Truth must be extremely terrifying. With your current strength, you should forget about it. This kind of gold rank ability isn't something you can covet right now. Gold rank talent ability? Feng Qi was confused again. It was the first time he learned that other than one's strength, talent abilities were also divided into rank. In the real world, the strength of humans came from the domain creatures. The people who first built the training system divided the strength of the domain creatures and humans into iron, bronze, silver, and gold rank. This classification came from the Calamity domain. The Calamity domain was one of the large-scale domains that caused humans to suffer the most losses in history. After it descended into the real world, it quickly expanded and swallowed several cities. In order to resist the expansion of the Calamity domain, an early joint military was formed. A large number of human powerhouses joined in and fought against the Calamity domain for 13 years. The god of war in history, Emperor Ye's personal domain battle team, had also been defeated while fighting against the Calamity domain's invasion. Along with the Calamity domain, a large number of powerful humanoid life forms called calamities also descended. They had an obvious characteristic. Their strength was related to the color of the blood flowing in their body. From lowest to highest, they were black, green, silver, and gold. Humans used this to set the strength standards of iron, bronze, silver, and gold. However, apart from the strength of domain creatures, there was also an expanded calamity level evaluation standard. From lowest to highest, evil Zhuin, and Chaos 5 levels. The strength of one's strength was related to the disaster level, but it was not completely related to one's strength. For example, the special domain creature Spring Poison's strength poison. However, its ability was to create plagues, and in severe cases, it could even destroy an entire city. Its calamity level had reached the Feng grade. Therefore, the Calamity domainus was based on the degree of destruction. Originally, Feng Qi thought that all talent abilities were like seeds with unlimited possibilities. After listening to the narrator's answer, he suddenly realized that talent abilities were also divided into strong and weak ones. Of course, there are strong and weak talents. Some talents have reached a height that ordinary abilities can't surpass. For example, the Eye of Truth ability that I mentioned. Even if it's just a LV1 Eye of Truth ability seed, it's stronger than a level 1000 resilience. Then, are there any talent abilities above the gold rank? Yes. He didn't expect the narrator to give an affirmative answer. He couldn't help but continue asking. Could it be that the strength of a domain creature with such an ability has already surpassed the gold rank? The human standard of strength has always been broken time and time again. In the beginning, humans set the standard of strength to be level S to level E, which is equivalent to the current low iron to high bronze rank. Later on, when human powerhouses broke through level S, the human standard of strength was changed. The limit of a domain creature's strength is not gold rank, but the current limit of human strength is gold rank. After listening to the narrator's explanation, Feng Qi couldn't help but nod. As far as he knew, according to the report given by the Domain Research Institute, there was a high probability that the strength of the super dire beast in the sea exceeded gold rank. It was comparable to the mythical ancient dire beasts and could easily set off a tsunami-level disaster. So, don't bite off more than you can chew. You have to take it step by step. What you take from the domain creature is equivalent to a talent seed. It's impossible to gain godlike strength in one go. Then, please help me find if there are any domain creatures with the spiritual growth system nearby. I want to start getting stronger. Sorry, the system has been malfunctioning recently. I can only find domain creatures with the muscular growth system nearby. Feng Qi was speechless. Okay, help me find them. It's fine as long as I can beat them. Sensing. Target detected at 11 o'clock. Bald muscular man attack. Hearing the narrator's prompt, Feng Qi leaned forward and suddenly exerted force on his feet. His body shot out like a cannonball and ran toward the 11 o'clock direction. The wind whistled in his ears as he ran. Every step he took covered a distance of several meters, leaving deep footprints behind him. Soon, the target appeared in his line of sight. It was a humanoid monster with strong muscles all over its body. It was more than 2 meters tall and wore a white bone mask on its face. Only its ghostly green eyes could be seen, and its face could not be seen clearly. In its right hand, it held a spear made of bone. It seemed to have noticed Feng Qi, who was running quickly toward it. It let out a threatening cry and turned around to aim the bone spear at Feng Qi. There was not much time left for the blood source to last. Feng Qi did not want to waste any more time and immediately rushed toward the humanoid domain creature. The moment the bone spear was about to come into contact with his body, psychic power came out of his body and deflected the bone spear to the side. His huge fist smashed toward the humanoid domain creature's head. However, what he did not expect was that the humanoid domain creature suddenly dodged his fist. Then, it suddenly raised its right knee and hit Feng Qi's chest with a fierce knee strike. The powerful impact caused Feng Qi's body to fly backward. "TSK, it hurts just looking at it. Can you be smarter? Don't think that all domain creatures only know how to use brute force. All intelligent domain creatures know how to fight." The narrator's mocking voice sounded in his mind. When Feng Qi heard this, he released his telekinesis and stabilized himself in the air while he was still flying. Looking at the humanoid domain creature that slowly lowered its right leg and let out a warning roar again, he decisively rushed toward it again. At this moment, his psychic power turned into invisible chains and temporarily restrained the humanoid domain creature on the spot. This time, his huge fist landed squarely on the domain creature's head. Crack! Crack appeared on the white bone mask. Its body leaned backward, and its eyes showed a momentary daze, as if it was stunned by this punch. However, what he did not expect was that the humanoid domain creature's right hand suddenly let go of the bone spear. Then, it fiercely punched him in the face. Both of them flew backward at the same time. Standing up again, Feng Qi spat out the blood in his mouth and assumed the starting position of the tiger fist. Again. At this moment, his psychic power was exhausted, but it also aroused the fierceness in his heart. Exerting force with his feet, he once again pounced toward the humanoid domain creature. The humanoid domain creature also chose to pounce toward Feng-Chi. Fist-to-flesh melee combat began. The blood source's duration was limited, so Feng-Chi completely gave up on defense and allowed the fists to hit his body. Just like this, you hit me once, I'll hit you back. Blood dripped down from the surface of his body. Feng-Chi was like a demon as he continuously punched. Tsk, what a good seedling. It's a pity that he doesn't walk the path of a muscular man. With this melee combat posture, his future is promising. Facing Feng-Chi's crazy attacks, the humanoid domain creature seemed to be a little panicked. Obviously, it still wanted to live and didn't want to die together with Feng-Chi. So, it changed its offense and changed from offense to defense. After taking a few punches from Feng-Chi, the humanoid domain creature suddenly stretched out its hands and grabbed the right fist that was swinging toward it. Then, its legs clamped down on Feng-Chi's left leg. Its body suddenly leaned back and used all its strength to flip Feng-Chi to the ground. Feng-Chi immediately struggled to break free, but the humanoid domain creature didn't give him a chance at all. As its body moved, its legs blocked the point where Feng-Chi's legs were exerting force. Its hands locked onto Feng-Chi's neck and began to tighten. This made Feng-Chi realize that his situation wasn't good. If he couldn't break free, his head would very likely be twisted off by the humanoid domain creature. If you can't break free, just bite it. I'm getting anxious just looking at it. This isn't a competition where you can't use your teeth to attack. As long as you can kill it, you can use whatever moves you want. Monkey steals the peach, moon in the ocean. If your thing is a weapon, no one will say that you broke the rules even if you kill it with a JB. Stupid pig! Feng-Chi was speechless. After hearing the narration's reminder, he didn't hesitate. He immediately opened his mouth and bit the humanoid domain creature's arm. His teeth, which had been enhanced, easily bit through the humanoid domain creature's hard muscles and came into contact with its bones. Gotcha! When the sound of bones breaking rang out, the humanoid domain creature let out a shrill scream. Feng-Chi immediately turned around and punched its chin. Crack crack! Its chin was instantly displaced and was obviously dislocated. At this moment, Feng-Chi's thick right arm grabbed the humanoid domain creature's neck and then slammed it to the ground. Dong! Taking advantage of the humanoid domain creature's unbearable pain, his fists fell like a storm and fiercely smashed on the white bone mask. Finally, when the muscles on the surface of its body turned into a bloody mist and dissipated with the wind, the humanoid domain creature riding under him had also lost its vitality. I didn't lie to you, right? In addition to learning all kinds of combat skills, melee fighters also need to understand that every part of their body is a weapon. Teeth are indeed useless under normal circumstances, but under certain circumstances, they can also have unexpected effects. He took a deep breath and immediately nodded. Thank you. Listening to you was indeed the right choice. You're too polite. You don't need to thank me to your father. Be careful next time. Stupid system. Idiot. Living dead. At this moment, a stream of vitality appeared on the surface of the humanoid domain creature's body and entered his body. Just as he was about to open the interface to see what kind of talent he had obtained, a commotion not far away attracted his attention. He turned his head and saw a group of figures holding bone spears and wearing white bone masks in the distance, running toward him quickly. Seeing this scene, Feng-Chi turned around and ran without hesitation. The ferocity he had when he was risking his life just now was gone at this moment. Chapter 120. Fortunately, the distance was far enough. Faced with the pursuit of a group of humanoid domain creatures, Feng-Chi ran all the way and finally jumped into the sinkhole. After floating on the ground with his telekinesis, he looked up at the edge of the sinkhole. After waiting for a while, The group of humanoid domain creatures wearing bone masks did not appear above the sinkhole. Realizing that he was safe, he could not help but sigh in relief. Choosing to risk his life at this time was no different from suicide. Only by running away could he survive. When it was time to risk his life, he could not be a coward. But in the face of certain death, he felt that he had to be a coward. This was the most important rule to survive in the harsh environment of the future dream. Thinking back to when he first met Xiao He, he did not even think about running away or pulling him. As long as Xiao He appeared, he would be courting death. But now that he had experienced more, he began to realize the preciousness of life. It was really King expensive. This may be the growth that every man has to face. Through setbacks and pain, you understand your own shortcomings, and thus you understand the principle that too much is easy to break. In the end, it is nothing more than one word: weak. If you are strong enough, CK off running, there is nothing that my iron fist can't break. Feng Qi was speechless. He listened to the first half of the narration quite seriously and felt that the narration made sense. But when he heard the second half, he suddenly realized that the narration was purely mocking him, implying that he was too weak. After making sure that he was safe, he called out the attribute panel. Killing a humanoid domain creature gave him a very strange innate ability. Strong Fang, evil thoughts to blood source to nightmare toughness, level 5, a very strong living dead. Feng Qi's strength level, iron intermediate spirit strength, weak prefix title, very strong, body strength increases by 30%, greatly enhances self-recovery. Toughness level 4, muscle toughness increases by 4%. Prefix title ability, nightmare, non-upgradable prefix title, blood source, non-upgradable prefix title, evil thoughts, affected by spirit strength, strong Fang, evolvable prefix title. New moon sigil, fusion prefix title 16. When the new moon sigil is attached, the body's muscle strength, spirit strength, condition reflexes, and other abilities will be improved. When the sigil completes fusion, a new sigil ability will be obtained. Bloodline, human, primary, bloodline evolution points, 5461,000 prefix title milestone frowny face very strong, upgradable. Third milestone progress, 23% toughness LV5, upgradable 25%. After looking at his attribute panel, Feng Qi was confused. Aside, why doesn't this innate ability have a prefix title? And why is it a fusion prefix title? What does that mean? Faced with the question, the narrator was silent for a few seconds before speaking. That should be the case. Your ability is to deprive domain creatures of their unique talent. If it's a diverse talent, you'll deprive them of the strongest talent. The domain life form you just killed should have a powerful hidden talent hidden in its bloodline. This kind of talent is usually possessed by its ancestors, but as the bloodline continues to dilute, the ability is gradually lost. It was only taken away by your special ability. After listening to the explanation, Feng Qi suddenly understood what was going on. So this ability can only be obtained after it is completed? With this ability, you've already obtained a partial increase in your physical fitness. However, if you want it to appear as a prefix title, then this ability must be completed. If I continue to kill domain lifeforms wearing the white bone mask, can I complete this prefix title? You can try. As long as its clansmen also have this kind of hidden bloodline ability, you can rely on killing their clansmen to complete this ability and obtain the prefix title. Understood. Wait until I'm strong enough, then I'll kill its entire family. Kill! Feng Qi did not have the slightest bit of pity for domain creatures. They destroyed their own homes, slaughtered their own clansmen, and completely overturned human civilization. If one looked at history, they would discover that the human resistance against domain invasions was a tragic history filled with blood and tears. Being kind to the enemy was an extremely foolish action. In the real world, there was a group of people who worshipped domain creatures. During the time they observed domain creatures, they came up with many powerful battle techniques and technique. However, they also hated the invasion of domain creatures and stood at the forefront of the resistance against domain creatures. This was what Lao Wang said about this group of people in history class. He said that before the cataclysm, there was also a group of people who were loyal fans of Japanese anime and games. However, even though they loved many cultural products of Japanese, in the face of major problems, they also knew how to protect their country's sovereignty and the dignity of their people. This problem was still the same even now. The problem of one's position was always greater than one's own. Moreover, the confrontation between humans and domain creatures concerned whether or not human civilization could continue. Therefore, Feng Qi had never felt a trace of guilt in his heart when killing domain creatures. If he was strong enough, he wanted to kill to his heart's content. After estimating the time, Xiao He had not arrived yet. This made Feng Qi somewhat puzzled. Although the suckers had eaten a lot of spiritual plants along the way, logically speaking, they should not have lasted so long. There's also such a possibility. After the Black Grandson defeated the suckers, he encountered other domain creatures on the way here. You know Xiao Hei's characteristic. Brainless domain creatures are full of hostility toward him and will take the initiative to attack him. Perhaps Xiao He is now fighting with other domain creatures. I hope so. Help me stall for as much time as possible. Oh, now that you don't have the blood source ability, what do you plan to do next? In the face of the narrator's question, he was silent for a moment before speaking. Where is the energy node you mentioned? How long will it take to get there now? The energy node is too far away. With your current strength and movement speed, you won't be able to reach it at all. I think you should go to the plains to hunt domain creatures. Without the blood source ability, I don't think I can defeat any domain creatures just by relying on my psychic power. I can only bully domain creatures. At least you have some idea in your heart, but that's not necessarily the case. Some domain creatures are more special. For example, the nightmare you encountered earlier. Its ability is very terrifying to other domain creatures, but it's no threat to you. Perhaps you can try to find such domain creatures. That makes sense. Let's go. At this moment, the slightly recovered psychic power seeped out of his body and wrapped around him. Then, it carried his body and flew straight into the sky. A moment later, his feet landed on the ground and he returned to the plains. He looked up and saw a huge blood moon hanging high in the sky. A cold wind blew, and the white flowers on the plains swayed with the wind, making rustling sounds. However, he couldn't feel a single trace of beauty here. Without wasting any time, he immediately followed the edge of the crater and headed east. Narrator, look carefully. It's best if you can find a practical ability similar to the nightmare. Do you know that there's only one kind of creature in this world that will selflessly sacrifice for you without asking for anything in return? Do you know what it is? Shut up, I don't want to know. Oh no, you already have the answer in your heart. Hearing this, he decisively raised his middle finger in his heart. Just as he was about to reply, his gaze was suddenly attracted to the sky. He saw a huge, ferocious-looking sky behemoth flying toward him. It had a pair of wings on its back and a pair of large, ghostly green eyes. The scales on the surface of its body refracted gorgeous colors under the blood moon. Every time it flapped its wings, it would set off a gust of wind on the ground. The oppressive feeling that rushed toward him made Feng Qi's expression turn solemn. This sky behemoth seemed to be the same one he encountered last time. At this moment, the wind was howling and everything was trembling. It was like the king of the sky, overlooking all living things. It didn't even notice the tiny Feng Qi. When it flew over Feng Qi's head, it suddenly turned its head to look to the west and let out a roar. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, and the earth trembled. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. "Xiao He is here." Hearing the narrator's prompt, he immediately turned his head to look to the west. Sure enough, as the narrator said, Xiao He was floating from afar. He wanted the narrator to sing a farewell song, but he suddenly realized that the sky behemoth above his head was staring at Xiao He, who was coming from the west. He became excited. If the sky behemoth could attack Xiao He, perhaps Xiao He's first kill would appear. Just as he thought, the sky behemoth roared at Xiao He again. Its mountain-like body pressed toward Xiao He. The sky behemoth opened its mouth, and the spirit energy between heaven and earth quickly gathered in its mouth. A blue compressed energy ball was formed, and it suddenly smashed toward Xiao He. Before the compressed energy ball landed, a hurricane swept over. A large number of white flowers on the plains were uprooted, and the territory creatures closer to it were sent flying by this force. The scene was extremely spectacular. Feng Qi, who was below the sky behemoth, smiled when he saw this scene. He was looking forward to Xiao He being crushed to dust by this force. However, what happened next caused his smile to freeze. Faced with the incoming compressed energy ball, Xiao He's body spread out like fog, and the fog particles quickly attached to the blue energy ball. The compressed energy ball shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally turned into nothingness. F***ck, that works too? As expected of a mysterious creature that even my sensing ability can't detect. The speed at which it devours energy is too fast. Even the narrator was exclaiming at this moment. What happened next made Feng Qi and the narrator exclaim in unison, F***ck. The black fog condensed and turned back into Xiao He's appearance. Then, Xiao He opened his mouth. The absorbed energy quickly gathered and turned into a blue beam of light that suddenly swept toward the sky behemoth. Accompanied by a roar, the sky behemoth was sent flying by this energy. Its body flipped a few times in the air before it stabilized. Looking at Xiao He floating toward it, the huge sky behemoth stared at him for a moment. Suddenly, it flapped its wings and flew away at an extremely fast speed. F***ck, coward! Seeing this scene, Feng Qi, who was extremely disappointed, couldn't help but curse. The short exchange between the sky behemoth and Xiao He allowed him to have a clearer understanding of Xiao He's strength. As the sky behemoth flapped its wings and disappeared into the horizon, Xiao He, who had lost his target, turned his head to look at Feng Qi. F***ck, let's fight one-on-one. Feng Qi raised his middle finger at Xiao He from afar, and then assumed the starting position of the ferocious tiger fist. In a situation where death was certain, he couldn't lose his momentum. Chapter 121. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the real world. Facing Xiao He, Feng Qi's attack was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. It had no effect at all. In the end, he still died at the hands of Xiao He. He got up from the bed and sat down in front of the desk. After opening the notebook, he began to record his gains from the future dream. This habit allowed him to move in an orderly manner every time he came to the future dream. As the saying goes, planning a strategy can determine victory from 1,000 miles away. Without a plan, he would waste precious time after entering the future dream. Therefore, information consolidation and planning were very important. He released his telekinesis and began to write in the notebook. First, he recorded his strength increase. Ability Upgrade 1. Obtained a prefix title and the innate ability Tough Teeth. The effect of this ability is to greatly increase the strength of one's teeth. It can be used in close combat under special circumstances. Note: this ability is not very useful in normal battles, but it can have unexpected effects under abnormal circumstances. Ability Upgrade 2. Obtain the innate ability Curse of the New Moon. Increases one's physical fitness by a small margin. Note: this ability can be fused into a prefix title. You may obtain an unexpected special ability. You can look forward to it. Ability Upgrade 3. Bloodline Evolution Points increased to 536. Currently, he is still a primary human. Note: Bloodline Evolution Points will be increased in the future. This time, Feng Qi had only recorded 3 pieces of information regarding the improvement of his abilities in the future dream, which was not much. However, compared to the first time he entered the future dream, his strength had increased significantly. Next, he began to record his gains. This time, he obtained a lot of information from the future dream. He also found the answers to a few questions that had been puzzling him for a long time. Under the control of his telekinesis, the tip of the pen touched the paper and began to write. Future Dream Intelligence Gain 1. Confirmed that the Scarlet Institute has always been on the side of humanity. It is a trustworthy protector of humanity. Derivative Intelligence 1. The list of geniuses in the Scarlet Institute's headquarters is actually a list of geniuses to protect the new generation of geniuses. The goal is to fight against the dark forces that are secretly hunting geniuses. Derivative Intelligence 2. The humanoid domain creatures in the underground core area of the Scarlet Institute headquarters are actually Scarlet researchers who participated in the anti-infiltration project and volunteered to be experimental subjects. Derivative Intelligence 3. The anti-infiltration plan has nothing to do with the heavenly path. The ultimate goal of this plan is to send human powerhouses who have been transformed into semi-domain creatures into the dark world to destroy the connection node between the dark world and the real world and cut off the connection between the two worlds. Note: in the future, you can cooperate with the Scarlet Institute in many ways, including the Brain in a Vat project and obtaining access to the database. Future Dream Information Reward 2. Through the Nightmare King's ability, he learned that Murakami had always been looking for a miracle that could help humanity defeat the domain field, and she was the miracle of humanity that Lu Yu mentioned. Derivative Intelligence. In history, the growth of many powerhouses and the formation of forces are related to Murakami. For example, Emperor Yi Muqing, the Scarlet Institute's founder, Vivian, and so on. The goal is to help humanity rise and defeat the domain field. Note: for the time being, there is no information that can prove the specific origin of Murakami, but it is highly likely that the heavenly path is related to her. Perhaps those mysterious powerhouses who disappeared were sent to the heavenly path by Murakami, and the heavenly path is the front line of humanity's resistance against the domain field. Future Dream Information Reward 3. Discovered another characteristic of Xiao He. It has the special ability to quickly devour energy, and its strength is far higher than previously estimated. Note: this might be the reason why the narrator wants me to go to the extreme of physical growth. Xiao He seems to be far more effective against spell-type creatures than body-type creatures. Unanswered question. Xiao He's pursuit is still an unsolved mystery. It is also impossible to understand how Xiao He was able to accurately locate me 1,500 years later. Note 2. According to the information in the Scarlet Institute, Xiao He is very likely to be a life form that was created. It is similar to a sucker, but the specific situation is unknown. After recording the information he obtained in detail, Feng Qi sat in front of his desk and fell into deep thought. Next, he thought about the direction of the next future timeline. After thinking for a while, he recorded a few thoughts in his mind in his notebook. After a while, 3 options for the future timeline appeared on his notebook. Future Timeline Option 1. Continue to join the Scarlet Institute and tell the Scarlet Institute all the information he knows, especially the fact that there is a werewolf among his students. Then, with the help of the Scarlet Institute, he will find out who the hidden force behind the werewolf is. Note: if this future timeline can uncover the hidden force, it will have a profound impact on the future. It might even change the background of the next future dream. Secondly, I can use the influence of the Scarlet Institute to investigate Xiao Hei's origins and have the Scarlet Institute leave information for me. Future Timeline Option 2. Follow Mu Qing to establish the Lumin Can and ask Murakami about her secrets when she appears. Perhaps this timeline will allow me to obtain a large amount of historical secrets and understand the secrets of the heavenly path. Note: when Mu Qing establishes the Lumin Can, my lifespan will be close to 50 years old. Therefore, there is a high probability that I will die before the age of 50 due to various unknown reasons and may not obtain anything. Future Timeline Option 3. Completely blacken and attempt to join a secret organization. During this time, continuously reveal your rebellious nature to the outside world to obtain the secret organization's contact and invitation. Note: this future timeline is too dark and contains many uncertainties. It is very likely that before the secret organization can contact you, you will be sent to the guillotine by law enforcement. After writing down the directions of the 3 future lines, Feng Qi hesitated. Especially the third future timeline, he could imagine how painful it would be for him in the future. If the previous future timeline was to be in the darkness and yearn for the light, then this future timeline was to be in the darkness and yearn for the abyss. If he chose this future timeline, the psychological burden he would have to bear would also be great. Since he blackened, he would have to do many things that went against his morals and principles. Just like a devout believer who had to personally break his firm belief, he would definitely feel incomparable pain in his heart. After joining the secret organization, he would even have to personally slaughter humans. During this time, he might even have to personally witness the gradual destruction of human civilization in his own hands. This was undoubtedly a kind of mental torture. It's like asking you to kill your own family with your own hands, then destroy your own country, and finally destroy the civilization of your own race. This process will definitely make you feel extremely painful, especially when all of this is real and not a game. The words of the narrator spoke his mind. In the future, he was a real existence. Behind every email message, there was a real timeline of history. Just thinking about it made him feel painful. If he really had to do it in the future, the process would definitely make him feel worse than death. Thinking of this, he crossed out the third future timeline. In addition to the many variables in the execution process, this future timeline was too cruel for him in the future. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to make this choice. The next 2 futures were to join the Scarlet Institute and Lumin Can. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, "Narration, which timeline do you think is better?" Joining Lumin Can is a sudden death risk. You might die accidentally before Lumin Can is established, let alone meet Murakami. I think it's safer to join the Scarlet Institute. After all, stability is the most important thing. Slowly expand the information. If you take a big step, you might not find anything. After hearing the narration's answer, he couldn't help but nod. Actually, I'm also leaning towards the Scarlet Institute's future timeline. After making the decision, he tapped a tick on the Scarlet Institute's future timeline. After closing the notebook, he stretched his body. The road ahead was still shrouded in fog. But he firmly believed that with his efforts, the future would sooner or later turn upside down. Human civilization would also continue to rise under his influence and obtain the final victory. The road ahead is long and I will search from top to bottom. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but murmur, "I have a feeling that after you deal with the dark forces lurking in human civilization, the future dream will undergo a huge change." Why do you say that? The dark forces are like a virus that prevents human civilization from growing healthily. During this period, they assassinate geniuses, destroy the Scarlet Institute, and do other kinds of destructive actions that we don't know about. This is why human civilization's growth is constantly hindered. After completely removing them, human civilization's growth will be without worries. At that time, humans will only have to face the invasion of domain creatures. It will purely be a head-on confrontation. This can be solved completely by constantly transferring techniques from the future database. After hearing the narration, he couldn't help but nod. In fact, he had thought about this before. If the dark forces were not removed, no matter how much he copied techniques from the future database, human civilization would not be able to grow healthily. As the influence of the dark forces continued to expand, they would eliminate the conditions that could help humans grow. Just like how they assassinated human geniuses, they would eliminate all factors that were beneficial to the rise of human civilization. Therefore, if the dark forces were not dealt with at the root, the future of human civilization would still be worrying. As for the improvement of his own strength, although it was important, it could not completely change the future. Even if he was given 100 million to enter the future dream 100 times, he would still not be able to do it. With Xiao He restricting him, his strength might not be able to grow to the point where he could change history in the 100 future dreams. Even someone as strong as Mu Qing was dead. The mysterious Murakami, who might be stronger than Mu Qing, was also dead. Unless these 100 future dreams allowed him to become as strong as a god when fighting monsters and leveling up, he could easily change the fate of human civilization with a wave of his hand. Otherwise, choosing to mindlessly fight monsters to level up was the most inefficient action. Moreover, he did not have 100 million. With limited financial support, the core option of purely increasing his strength was an extremely stupid action. The best choice was to promote the progress of human civilization and lead the rise of human civilization. Narration: do you think I'm right? Your narration system has expired. It can no longer answer your question. Please proceed. Renewal options are as follows: days, 1 call of Dad; months, 25 calls of Dad; years, 100 calls of Dad. Please choose a top-up option. Stupid system, I don't want it. F***CK. Chapter 122. Star City University, Principal's Office. Bai Fuxing looked at Feng Qi, who was talking non-stop. He was a little confused. You're saying that you want to add a virtual reality major to the school? Are you serious? Feng Qi nodded solemnly at Bai Fuxing's question. Very serious. I just explained in detail to you. Virtual reality technology can solve the safety issues of the various universities and also improve the combat ability of the student. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If we create this major earlier, Star City University will be at the forefront of the various universities. Bai Fuxing listened to Feng Qi's explanation and went into deep thought. Feng Qi's words really did move him. How to improve the combat ability of the students was always the biggest headache for the various universities. Every year, many students died in the field. Even during the school's combat training, there were occasionally students who were seriously injured. However, if there were restrictions to ensure the safety of the combat training, the students wouldn't be able to unleash their full potential. Training with restrictions would also be of little help to the actual combat. After listening to Feng Qi's explanation of virtual reality technology, he felt like this idea was feasible. However, he felt like it wouldn't be easy to create such a game. Even though he didn't understand virtual reality technology, he knew that it would be difficult to make virtual reality technology comparable to reality. Starting research and development from scratch, the subsequent investment could be an astronomical figure. He looked at Feng Qi and sighed. Your idea is too far-fetched. Your idea is too imaginative. I'm not saying that your idea isn't feasible. The problem is that we don't have a teacher who has mastered this technology. The follow-up investment is also a bottomless pit. I think it's better to forget about it. No, I can help you find a technology teacher. We can slowly figure out a way to solve the funding problem. Why don't you try applying for funding first and see what the Ministry of Education thinks? It's always difficult to start. When Feng Qi heard Bai Fuxing's rejection, he quickly spoke. It was impossible for him to create Savior alone. He could look for the young genius Fang Zhou for the creation of the virtual engine. He could copy the data code from future database, but the problem of the art design would require additional investment. For example, original art, game modeling, game action, game special effects, UI, and so on. With the brand new game engine, he had to relearn a lot of content. This was undoubtedly an extremely huge project, and the amount of money needed to be invested in the early stages was even more unknown. After careful consideration, he decided to ask Bai Fuxing for help. As for talents in this area, he already had the best candidate in mind, and that was Fang Zhou. The game Savior was built on the virtual engine that Fang Zhou had developed. According to the historical timeline, the future virtual engine had already been born, but it had yet to be perfected. Therefore, he had to accelerate the birth of this achievement. As for the core problems such as spell trajectories and algorithm codes, he could solve them through the future database. After all, Star City University is a cultivation institution. It's not appropriate to add this major. Even if we report it, it won't be approved. Looking at Bai Fuxing, who shook his head and sighed, Feng Qi wasn't surprised. Therefore, he came up with a second plan. Grandmaster, what do you think about me sponsoring this major? Hearing this, Bai Fuxing couldn't help but be taken aback. Then, he glared at him and said, "Kid, what's your goal? Just say it, don't beat around the bush." Facing Bai Fuxing's reprimand, Feng Qi scratched his head. "I only have one condition. The results of this major belong to me in the future." "I understand. You're planning to open a studio specializing in virtual reality technology in the university. During this period, the students you recruit will eat, drink, and live in Star City University. It's the same as letting the university support these people for you. Dream on." Bai Fuxing couldn't help but stare. Hearing this, Feng Qi quickly shook his head. "Grandmaster, you've misunderstood me. I wouldn't have such a wicked idea. You're right. I do want the future students to eat, drink, and live in Star City University. But if the virtual reality technology is successful in the future, I'm willing to give Star City University 30% of the profit. You know that if this technology is successful, it will have a profound impact on the development of mankind. It will benefit the entire human race. From the perspective of the entire human race, I think it's worth a try." Looking at Feng Qi, who was talking non-stop, Bai Fuxing fell silent. After listening to Feng Qi's explanation, he was undoubtedly interested in virtual reality technology. If they could really create a game world that was similar to the real world, and the trajectory of the spells in the game was almost one, it would definitely be a revolutionary product. The combat training problem that the universities had the most headaches about could be solved. Apart from that, high school students and even primary school students who had yet to be admitted to a school could try to learn cultivation in advance through this game. Just from this aspect alone, the value of this technique was even higher than that of a 5-star rated technique. The only problem was that he doubted Feng Qi's ability to develop such a groundbreaking virtual reality game. Feng Qi was the most talented student he had ever seen. Even Wang Jinxing wasn't as dazzling as Feng Qi when he was at Feng Qi's age. However, he felt like Feng Qi was taking too big of a leap. Lu Zhou was still in the cultivation field, but now, he was going to enter the technology field. This was too immature. He couldn't help but try to persuade Lu Zhou. "Honestly, you've really convinced me. It's not a big problem for you to set up a virtual reality studio in the university. As long as you report the details of the virtual reality technology, I'm sure the Ministry of Education will approve it. After all, you don't need any funding, and you can still get 30% of the profit. If someone else came to me today, I might have already agreed, but not you." When Feng Qi heard this, he was stunned. "Why are you discriminating against geniuses?" Bai Fuxing's expression became very interesting at this moment. After taking a deep breath, he stared and said, he took a deep breath and said, "What I mean is that you are extremely talented in cultivation. You shouldn't waste your time and money in a field that you're not good at." Feng Qi understood what Bai Fuxing was worried about. He smiled and said, "Grandmaster, have you heard of an all-rounder? A special kind of genius who can achieve success in all aspects." Bai Fuxing looked at Feng Qi and said, "What do you think? Who do you think you are?" "Yes, I am. You won't turn back until you hit the wall?" "I'm confident. I just need money, talent, and your support. When the time comes, we will all go down in history because of this technology. When future generations read this history, they will see this paragraph. With the support of Principal Bai Fuxing, the strongest genius in history, Feng Qi pioneered virtual reality technology and games that influenced future generations." Bai Fuxing looked at Feng Qi and didn't understand where his confidence came from. Were the thoughts of young people nowadays so jumpy? He also realized that Feng Qi had already made a decision. Even if he didn't support him, he would think of other ways to try. After a moment of silence, Bai Fuxing said, "I'll give you 3 months to prepare and show me some results. I'll apply for the venue and dorms." "Thank you, Grandmaster." Feng Qi bowed and thanked him. "Don't thank me, you have to promise me that if you can't produce results in 3 months, don't waste any more time on virtual reality technology." "No problem." He nodded again. Bai Fuxing looked at the confident Feng Qi and laughed in his mind. He didn't doubt Feng Qi's talent at all. However, it was impossible for him to produce results in virtual reality technology in 3 months. He believed that in less than 3 months, Feng Qi would be well behaved after hitting a wall. "I'm going to prepare now, Grandmaster." Feng Qi stood up and said, "Go ahead." After Feng Qi left, Bai Fuxing picked up his teacup and took a sip. He then shook his head and said, "He's too arrogant. He is proud and arrogant. He lacks experience and tempering. This setback should be able to temper his temperament." After Feng Qi left the principal's office, he walked out of the school gate. He hailed a taxi and immediately headed to his destination. It was late at night. Eastern area of Star City, Cross Lake Bridge. A short-haired young man in a black t-shirt sat on the edge of the bridge. He looked at the bustling Star City under the neon lights. His eyes seemed to be in a daze. Below his legs was the inner lake of Star City, Tianqing Lake. It was dozens of meters above the bridge. The night wind blew, and the young man curled up his body. He looked extremely sad. Tears and snot almost flowed out of his eyes. Just a moment ago, he was heartbroken. The girl that he promised to spend the rest of his life with was snatched away by an extremely handsome male student from the next class. At this moment, he was ready to commit suicide for love. While he was struggling in his heart, he heard a voice in his ear. "Jump, why aren't you jumping? I've been watching you for a long time." The voice continued, "Coincidentally. It's a coincidence. I have a friend who jumped to his death here a few years ago. Unfortunately, after his death, the woman he loved wasn't sad at all. The people he hated the most were still alive and well. The world went on as usual, but his parents had to suffer. They had to send their children off and wash their faces with tears every day." After hearing this, Feng Yu knew that his death wish had disappeared. He couldn't help but look back. He saw a young man who was only a few years older than him. The young man was standing not far away and looking at him with a smile. "Are you trying to piss me off?" the young man said angrily. It's a common problem for young people. They fall in love when they're in their teens and think that they've found the love of their life. They'll even commit suicide for this ignorant and childish love. If time could turn back, the future you would definitely slap yourself a few times to wake you up. Feng Qi responded with a smile. The young man who was ready to commit suicide was his target, Feng Yu. As a super genius in virtual technology, he was a love-struck fool. What happened today would change Feng Yu's life. If he didn't stop him, Feng Yu would have really jumped. Although he didn't die, he was almost paralyzed. After several failed treatments, he had a period of motivation, but in the end, he fell into depression and died at home at the age of 27. According to the speculation of the netizens, Feng Yu probably committed suicide. So he came, not only to prevent the tragedy from happening, but also to give Feng Yu a platform to show his ability. Looking at the confused Feng Yu, Feng Qi continued with a smile. The best way to defeat your opponent is not to commit suicide. They'll only laugh at your childishness if they know that you committed suicide. But I know a way to help you vent your anger. What way? Feng Yu immediately asked. Make yourself good enough, so good that they can only look up to you. Looking at Feng Qi's contagious and brilliant smile, some of them were touched. What should I do? Treat me to supper and I'll teach you. Hearing these words, Feng Zhio hesitated for a few seconds before decisively climbing down from the bridge. He walked up to Feng Qi and said, "Okay, I'll treat you." Chapter 123. You're like a rainbow. So that's where your name comes from. After hearing Feng Zhio's introduction, Feng Qi could not help but nod. He picked up a skewer of mutton and finished it in one bite. He turned his head and looked at the owner of the supper stall not far away. "Boss, another 100 beef skewers, another 100 lamb skewers, 5 lamb kidneys." Feng Zhio looked at the table full of sticks and his mouth twitched. He realized that treating Lu Zhou to supper wasn't as simple as he thought. If he continued to let Feng Qi eat, he felt that his wallet might not be able to handle it. After all, he was still a student. He still had to rely on his parents for income. The savings that he usually saved from living expenses seemed to be emptied because of this supper. It might not even be enough. He took a deep breath and stopped thinking about it. He picked up the wine glass and took a big gulp. While feeling dizzy, he looked at Feng Qi with a red face and asked, "Brother Qi, can you tell me what I should do to be respected by others now?" Feng Qi grinned in the face of the question. "I heard you're working on a virtual engine. How's it going?" "It's so. The basic structure has been completed, but there are still many things that are not perfect." "Where did you hear this from?" Feng Qi did not answer, but continued to ask. He continued to ask, "Have you considered perfecting the structure of this virtual engine?" "I have, but it would require a lot of effort and money. For this, I even applied for support funds from the Science and Technology Research Institute, but it wasn't approved. So I plan to focus on my studies for the time being." Feng Qi, who hadn't found this history in the historical database, couldn't help but be stunned. Why didn't it pass? I'm not surprised. After all, the information I submitted was nothing special. It was just the structure of a virtual engine. Whether it's the Science and Technology Research Institute or the Joint Army, they have their own virtual simulation engines. My new model of virtual engine obviously didn't catch their eye. More importantly, this is a new world where cultivation is the core of development. What's the use of a good virtual engine? Hearing this, Feng Qi suddenly understood the reason. Looking at Feng Zhio's virtual engine from a historical perspective, he would feel that this virtual engine was excellent and could even change the course of human history. However, from the perspective of a modern person, this was not the case at all. In modern society, virtual engines were commonly used to construct game world. They were used to simulate physical effects in reality. There were also some virtual engines that were used for scientific experiments or to test the effects of technological weapons. However, the performance of these test results on the virtual engine was far worse than in reality. For example, the power of a weapon could be tested directly at the weapon testing site. The results of the simulation test using the virtual engine could only be used as a reference, and a bunch of bugs would appear during the process. Therefore, before the appearance of the Savior, the virtual reality engine was of little value, but it was a pity to discard it. Fang Zhou was rated as a virtual genius by history, but what made him famous was not this era. Later on, someone relied on the virtual engine he built to create the game Savior. Only then did he know that he was recorded in history. Just like gunpowder, when it was first invented, it was commonly used in alchemy and wasn't famous. However, after it was developed and used in the military, the popularity of gunpowder rose rapidly, and it became a super invention that could affect human history. Fang Zhou's virtual engine was the same. Before the Savior was born, its use was extremely limited and it was not taken seriously. However, after the Savior was born, the virtual engine he built was like gunpowder used in the military, shining brightly. Later generations continued to upgrade the future virtual engine foundation he built, making the physical performance of the future virtual engine closer to reality. There were many technological and military experiments in the future. As long as detailed parameters were provided, they could be simulated in the virtual world. This saved a lot of steps and saved a lot of resources. Looking at Fang Zhou's flushed face, Feng Qi realized that perhaps even Fang Zhou himself did not expect that the virtual engine he built would have such a profound impact on future generations. The application for financial support that was rejected by the Science and Technology Research Institute obviously made him feel that his research was purely a hobby and did not have much practical use. Thinking of this, he immediately said, "Are you interested in perfecting the architecture of the virtual engine? I'll help you with the funds." When Fang Zhou heard this, he was obviously taken aback. He then shook his head and said, "This is purely a hobby of mine. I'll slowly perfect it in my free time. For now, I'll focus on my studies." Do you think the virtual engine is not very useful? Is that not the case? Looking at the dispirited Fang Zhou, Feng Qi felt that Fang Zhou needed motivation, so he said, "I have an idea. I need you to help me perfect it. If it succeeds, you can become a historical figure that others look up to." "What idea?" Fang Zhou asked curiously. "I need a virtual engine that's close to reality in terms of physical performance to create a highly realistic virtual game. Of course, the purpose of creating this game is not purely for players to spend money. My idea is this." As he spoke, he explained the concept of the Savior to Fang Zhou in detail. Finally, he emphasized that creating this game could solve the shortcomings of students from major universities in terms of actual combat training. It could even promote progress in the field of science and the military. From the initial confusion, Fang Zhou's expression gradually became serious. He realized that Feng Qi came prepared. Not only did Fang Zhou understand the main direction of the virtual engine he built, but he even thought of how to use the virtual engine he built to create a series of content. Fang Zhou was speechless when he heard the content. If he could really complete the pie that Feng Qi described, the value of the virtual engine in the future would be immeasurable. However, he also had many doubts in his heart, so he looked at Feng Qi and asked, "If I perfect the virtual engine in the future, how will you proceed with the game's creation? I can help you with the physical performance, but the operation trajectory of the spells, algorithms, and other content will definitely require a lot of practical testing. How will you complete that? If you want to record the spells one by one, even if you have a top team, it will take decades to test it. It might be decades later when the game is created." In response to the question, Feng Qi smiled and said, "You don't have to worry about that. Now, I just need you to perfect the framework of the virtual engine in the future. I'll give you financial support. By the way, the art designers will definitely need to work with your virtual engine. Talents in this area will definitely need to be retrained, so you'll be in charge of this when the time comes. I haven't agreed yet, Feng Zhou could not help but mumble. If you don't agree, send him to that bridge and let him continue to jump. What a waste of breath. Ignoring the voiceover's sarcasm, Feng Qi said with a smile, "So, I need your answer now." Hearing this, Feng Zhou hesitated. Feng Qi's plan was indeed tempting. However, when he thought about how he had just met Feng Qi and did not know much about him, it seemed too rash to agree to the plan right after hearing it. The plan sounded very tempting, but he was not stupid. He knew that if this plan was to be implemented, it would require a lot of effort. At the same time, the outcome was full of uncertainty. The effort he put in might very well be in vain. However, for some reason, after talking with Feng Qi, he felt that there was a charm on Feng Qi that made him want to believe in him. Especially the bright smile on his face, which was full of affinity. After a moment of silence, he hesitated and said, "Even if I agree, my parents won't agree. They want me to enter the cultivation method research class at Star City University in the future." Hearing this, Feng Qi grinned. "Then, how confident are you in entering the cultivation method class at Star City University?" "I'm not confident. Actually, I don't like cultivation method research. I'm working hard because of my parents' expectations." Feng Zhou could not help but sigh. Hearing this, he thought of his best friend, Mo Fei. Mo Fei's parents wanted him to enter the combat class at a famous university. However, unlike Feng Zhou's parents, they never pressured Mo Fei and allowed him to choose the direction of his life. In contrast, Feng Zhou was burdened with his parents' expectations. If you're not confident, does that mean you won't be able to get in? You can say that. Interest is motivation. If I'm not interested, how can I be motivated to study? Is that why you're dating in school? Looking at Feng Qi's teasing expression, Feng Zhou felt awkward. He could not help but take a big gulp of wine to cover it up. "Although I can't help you solve the problem of getting into Star City University, we can build a virtual engine in the future, as well as build a virtual game studio in Star City University. I'm sure your parents will agree." Hearing this, Feng Zhou was a bit confused. "A studio in Star City University? Are you serious?" "Very serious. I don't believe it. Star City University is a cultivation school, not a technology school. You're dreaming if you want to set up a technology-oriented studio in Star City University. How can the principal agree to it? Unless the principal accepted a large bribe from you and took the risk to agree to it," Feng Zhou added. He was not surprised by Feng Zhou's doubts. "What if I told you that our studio will be located in Star City University? The accommodation and food will be provided by Star City University. Other than not being able to attend classes, we'll be treated the same as the students. Would you believe it? Did you drink too much or did I drink too much?" Feng Zhi looked at the wine glass and felt dizzy as he said unhappily, "Neither of us are drunk. If we didn't even meet the basic requirements, I wouldn't have come looking for you," Feng Qi said seriously. "So Star City University really agreed?" "That's right. Why? I want to know why Star City University agreed. Did the principal accept your bribe?" "Because I'm a genius." Feng Qi grinned. "There are plenty of geniuses. That's not the reason why Star City University agreed." Even now, Feng Zhou still did not believe Feng Qi's words. In the face of doubt, Feng Qi took out his Star City University teacher's ID from his pocket and slapped it in front of Feng Zhou. Then, under Feng Zhou's incredulous expression, he took out a palm-sized silver medal for outstanding contribution to humanity. "I only brought these two things. They're just SOSO. Everyone, come and take a look. There's a zombie acting pretentious here. The situation is out of control. The narrator could not help but shout. Okay. Feng Qi nodded. My father used to be a frontline warrior. His biggest dream in life is to get a Medal of Honor, so I know the meaning behind this medal very well. Your contribution to humanity is worthy of my treat. If you don't mind, I can give you a free meal if you come to my place in the future. Maybe this is the meaning of your struggle. Even if there are thousands of bad things in human nature, there are also good things that are worth preserving. Hearing the narrator's answer, Feng Qi's heart was filled with warmth. However, he still chose to politely decline the snack stall owner's treat. Boss, since you know the meaning behind the Medal of Honor, you should understand that this Medal of Honor is not used to pay the bill. If I use this Medal of Honor to scam people for food and drinks, it will tarnish it. Therefore, I can't eat this meal for free. You can charge me as much as you want. Hearing this, a look of shame appeared on the snack stall owner's face. He then nodded and said, I can charge you, but I have to give you a discount. You have to give me face. Give me 50% off. You're too polite. I'll definitely give you face, but I can't let you lose money. 10% will do. Let's both take a step back. 20%. After a round of bargaining, Feng Qi paid for the meal with a 30% discount under the owner's reluctance. Feng Qi was still a little regretful about this. He felt that he should not have let the snack stall owner see the silver medal. This kind of behavior of consuming Medal of Honor made him feel ashamed. TSK, the Silver Medal of Honor. This thing is really useful. It's a must-have equipment when you go out to show off. He ignored the narrator's words and turned to look at Feng Zhao, who was beside him. Go home. I'll help you with your parents. Just wait for my news. Brother Qi, this meal was supposed to be my treat, Feng Zhao said awkwardly. I'm the one eating. How can I really let you treat me? Besides, you don't have any source of income. The money you have comes from your parents. Feng Qi patted Feng Zhao's shoulder and smiled. Thank you. I'll definitely treat you to a meal when I have money. Then you have to earn more money. When the time comes, I might bring someone with a bigger appetite to freeload. No problem. Thinking that Feng Qi was joking, he immediately nodded solemnly. After Feng Zhao left, Feng Qi took a taxi and left amidst the snack stall owner's enthusiastic calls for him to come again next time. It was already 7:30 p.m. when he returned to the dorm. Sitting in front of his desk, he began to browse the latest information on the school forum. As he was browsing, a post caught his attention. The freshman group martial arts competition will begin in a month. What do you think Star City University will get this time in the Eastern Division? OP, Star City University's Little Tyrant. Content. First of all, as usual, I'll post the recently collected information. There are a total of 10 freshman combat classes. It's certain that every class will participate. Next, I'll introduce a few of the more powerful classes and individuals. My first choice is the class that I'm more optimistic about, Combat Class 6. There are a total of 82 students in the class. More than half of them have been exposed to cultivation and techniques in advance. The rest of the freshmen mainly focus on gymnastics. Their overall strength is very strong. Among them, Shen Zhixing, Bai Kaiying, Min Xingwen, and the others are freshmen who performed extremely well in the special training. Next is Combat Class 2 and Combat Class 8. 3,000 words omitted. I'm also very optimistic about Combat Class 3. The strongest freshman, Lu Yu, is in this class. Other than that, there are Xia Long, Xia Hu, Xia Bao, and Yen Yu. Their performance during the special training was extremely valiant. Furthermore, they all came from a domain battle group. Their actual combat strength is very strong. As for the rest of the freshmen in Combat Class 3, their combat strength is very average. Especially Su Hongyun, his combat strength is extremely weak. He's purely there to make up the numbers. The only problem with Combat Class 3 is the number of participants. The freshman group martial arts competition is a team competition. The advantage in numbers is very important. The maximum number of participants per class is 60, and Combat Class 3 only has 11 people. It's more difficult for them to get a good ranking in the group martial arts competition. Based on the above, I'm still optimistic about Combat Class 6. Here, I'll predict Star City University's ranking in this year's group martial arts competition. My answer is that it will be 4th place. The above data is the information that I collected during the special training. After a statistical analysis, I came up with the conclusion. Some of the information may not match reality, please forgive me. Next, let's talk about why I think Star City University will probably be 4th place. Actually, before I started this thread, I looked at the situation of the freshmen in the combat classes of other academies in the Eastern region. I think the strongest might be Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 1. This class has several high-ranking descendants of S-rank domain battle group. They've been using the spirit plants produced in the domain to nourish their bodies since they were young. They've also been exposed to cultivation earlier than their peers. Coupled with the guidance of a group of teachers, they've even undergone domain battle training. Their combat strength is very terrifying. In my opinion, Chilly Winter Academy's Combat Class 1 is definitely the favorite to win the championship. Next is Victorious Academy's Combat Class. As the strongest elite academy in the Eastern region, Victorious Academy has basically taken the championship of the freshman martial arts competition in the past. Victorious Academy only has one combat class. However, the number of freshmen in their combat class has reached 300. They have to select 60 elites from these 300 elites to participate in the competition. You can imagine how strong Victorious Academy's combat class is. Therefore, the teachers of the freshman combat class should quickly start training the freshmen on how to fight as a team. This time, the freshman group martial arts competition's opponents are very strong. We can't lose face. Finally, the Ministry of Education's latest notice about the group martial arts competition was mentioned. The prize money for this year's martial arts competition had increased again. The details were as follows. Champion, 6 million cash, 3 million for the class teacher, 3 million for the class fund, 2nd place, 3 million cash, 1. 5 million for the class teacher, 1. 5 million for the class fund, 3rd place, 1 million cash, 500,000 for the class teacher, 500,000 for the class fund. Not only can you earn money, but you can also have honor. Teachers of the freshman combat class, bring your little brats and charge. Below this post, there were many comments from the Academy's teachers and students. They were all very interested in this year's freshman group martial arts competition. They all left comments to discuss the strength of each academy and each class, and then analyzed the possible ranking in the competition. Feng Qi wasn't very interested in the group martial arts competition. What interested him was that the top 3 in the group martial arts competition would receive a generous prize money. The teacher who led the class could take half of the prize money. If he won the championship, he could get a cash prize of 3 million. If this money was used to brew Qingxin wine, it would be enough for him to enter the future dream 4 times. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but be tempted. Moreover, in his opinion, it might not be as difficult as he imagined for his Combat Class 3 to win the championship. Since Lin Ran and Mu Qing were only in name in Combat Class 3, there was a high chance that they wouldn't be able to participate. After all, they weren't freshmen anymore. Otherwise, as long as Mu Qing participated alone, she would be able to easily win the group competition. She could also turn the group competition into a one-on-one show. However, even without Mu Qing and Lin Ran, Combat Class 3 still had a bug-like combat strength, Lu Yu. What was certain was that Lu Yu's battle performance during the freshman special training was definitely not his full strength. He, who came from Tongtian Road, had single-handedly destroyed a top-tier domain battle team in the future records. From this, it could be seen how terrifying his strength was.